Chapter 136. Second update. I've forgotten that it's my birthday soon. Thank you all for your red envelopes. Thank you, Little Wolf, for the 50,000 red flutters. Thank you, asterisk, 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 for the 25 evaluation tickets, as well as the rewards, monthly tickets, urging me to update, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Also, it's my birthday once in a blue moon. Brothers and sisters, can you give me your monthly tickets and recommendation tickets as gifts? Please. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chunhao's consciousness entered the treasured sword and sensed the runes within it. With a light flick of his wrist, 9 crescent moon-shaped sword rays poured out. Condense. Chunhao lightly shouted. Under the mental control of the subtle realm, the runes within the treasured sword were immediately activated. The 9 crescent moons miraculously condensed together, forming a full moon. The entire training room was dyed with a layer of cold moonlight. Moonlight sword. Under the moonlight, it has countless transformations. It can be soft or hard and has boundless power. It's very suitable for Xiaowu. I wonder which unlucky bastard left it behind. The runes within the sword are indeed profound. I'll use it to participate in the new talent competition. I'll have avenged that unlucky bastard. I believe that no one would be so thick-skinned as to ask for it back from me. Chunhao stared at the seemingly real, full moon before him. He knew in his heart that as long as he willed it, this gentle and cold moonlight would become the most berserk attack. It was likely that even this training room would not be able to withstand it. With a light smile on his face, the treasured sword let out a wong sound. Once again, the moonlight and the treasured sword disappeared. As for Chunhao, he was immersed in a subtle state of meditation. After 3 months of bitter training, only Chunhao himself knew what level his battle strength had reached. Rank 7 Martial Emperor. Although it seemed that he had only increased by 2 ranks, Chunhao believed that if he were to encounter the original rank 8 Martial Emperor in Fenghan, again he would be able to easily kill him without using the mysterious yellow ring. Because Chunhao did not use the might of fused energy at all in his later training. He only used origin power, pure origin power. The next day, early morning, the sky was clear, and there were no clouds for thousands of miles. A fiery red sun slowly rose from the east. The Imperial Palace, which symbolized the highest power and authority of the Xuanwu Empire, emitted thousands of rays of light under the sun. A mysterious and dense aura enveloped the palace. The majestic and melodious sound of the bell came from the depths of the palace. The magnificent gate of the Imperial Palace, which was 30 meters tall and 30 meters wide, slowly opened under the push of 2 rows of mighty guards. The numerous big shots who had been waiting outside for a long time all showed traces of nervousness on their faces. They didn't scramble to be the first to enter the Imperial Palace. Instead, they followed the order and entered the Imperial Palace. The rookie ranking competition would be held at the highest level of the Empire's Imperial Palace, facing one powerful aura after another. Chunhao's expression was extremely calm on the surface. Only his eyes occasionally flashed with a bright light, allowing others to understand that this extraordinarily handsome youth's mood was also surging. He had strong expectations for the upcoming clash between geniuses from the discussions of the crowd. Chunhao could occasionally hear his name being mentioned. Furthermore, he could feel waves of probing energy fluctuations. Evidently, in the rookie competition's preliminaries, he, who had fought against Yin Fenghan with the cultivation of a rank 5 Martial Emperor and alarmed the number 1 expert Mu Qing to appear, was one of the most eye-catching existences among the many genius disciples. Little brother Chunhao, do your best. When Chunhao, Dongfang Jun, and Dongfang Jian followed Zhao Xingyu and the others into the Imperial Palace's gate, close to 100 old men stood on both sides to welcome them. One of the old men took the initiative to greet Chunhao with a smile when he passed by him. "Thank you, Senior Mu," Chunhao said with a light smile. At the same time, he clasped his fist and greeted the other old men who nodded and smiled at him. These old men were none other than the old men who had asked Chun how to carve. The people who came to welcome them were obviously all big shots of the Empire. Contrary to Chunhao's expectations, the spectator stands in the martial practice field were not large. There were only 3 viewing stands. On the other side, there was a high and mighty platform. The 3 viewing stands could only hold about 10,000 people. However, it was luxurious and grand. In front of the seats, there were long tables that ran through the entire row. At the very front were the contestants from the various kingdoms and provinces. In the middle was the stage. The stage was different from ordinary stages. Instead, it was circular and had a diameter of 3,000 feet. What surprised Chun Hao was that with a cursory glance, he was able to tell that the stage was a special kind of stage. The material was actually suffused with a metallic luster. The surface of the stage was also covered with golden runes. This is the highest standard arena in the Empire. There are restrictions condensed by super experts. When you start the competition, the restrictions will be activated, causing the entire arena to be shrouded in a layer of enchantment. The space restrictions inside will also cause the arena to become thousands of feet wide and hundreds of feet tall. Unless it is a battle between martial saints, the stage will not be damaged in the slightest. At the same time, the scene of a battle will be magnified several times by the spirit formation, allowing the audience to see it clearly. Huang Qi slowly explained after seeing the shocked expressions of Chun Hao and the others. In less than a quarter of an hour, with the influx of people, the entire stage of the martial arts practice field was filled. Among them, there were thousands of young men and women dressed in the same uniform. They sat in the last few rows of the stage. These disciples were from the Empire's new show hall. The others were like the experts brought by Zhao Xingyu. They were the top figures of the various kingdoms. When everyone had just arrived, dozens of majestic and terrifying auras suddenly came from the entrance of the martial arts practice field. Dongfang Ting and Mu Qing were among them. However, with Dongfang Ting's status and cultivation, she was only at the edge. There were also a few young experts with powerful auras. Each of them had a condescending and arrogant expression on their faces. Their expressions and auras made even the middle-aged emperor of the Xuanwu Empire, who was walking in the middle, appear clumsy. It was obvious that these people were from another level. However, they were in a different camp from Dongfang Ting. The noisy crowd instantly quietened down. Their gazes were filled with reverence as they stared at the dozens of figures that slowly floated into the air towards the rostrum. In particular, those handsome young men and beautiful women who were about to participate in the competition, as well as the disciples of the Xuanwu Empire's new show hall, were excited. These people were their targets. After the main figures were seated, the first expert of the Xuanwu Empire, the Imperial Guardian, and the Hall Master of the Empire's new show hall, Mu Qing, walked to the front of the rostrum with a solemn expression. After sweeping his gaze across the martial arts practice field, he slowly said, "In this rookie ranking competition, according to the usual practice, our Xuanwu Empire has invited true geniuses from our empire. Each of them stood out from the rookie ranking competition and stepped into the 100 Empire ranking competition. They displayed their amazing talents and became the favored children of the 100 Empire ranking competition selected by the super sections. This is the pride of our Xuanwu Empire. It is also the foundation of our Xuanwu Empire's everlasting prosperity. Now, please allow me to introduce the pride of our Xuanwu Empire to you. The first is Xian Xian, who walked out of the Empire's new show hall 18 years ago, Daoist Xian. She is currently an inner disciple of the 6th grade sect, the Imperial Sword faction. In a few years, she will be promoted to a core disciple. Voila! Following Mu Qing's words, a young and beautiful woman with an extraordinary temperament, who was sitting close to the Emperor of the Empire, stood up and cupped her fists towards the martial arts practice field. Her expression was indifferent and aloof. It was as though in her eyes, everyone present was like an ant. No one could enter her eyes. But the more she was like this, the more everyone felt that she was lofty. The martial arts practice field erupted into an uproar and crazy cheers. Especially the disciples of the Empire's new show hall. They were extraordinarily excited. Xian Xian was a mythical existence in their new show hall. A core disciple of the Imperial Sword faction? That's really powerful, Huang Qi muttered. After he finished speaking, he looked towards Chun Hao and the other two and said, "It's time for you to know about the existence of another level." The disciples on the rostrum are the same as Taoist Dongfang Ting. They all come from another level, an existence that surpasses the empire. In the entire boundless continent, there are tens of thousands of sections. Just like our kingdoms and empires, there are also different levels. They are divided into 9 ranks. Rank 1 is the lowest, and rank 9 is the highest. A 6th grade sect is already a rather powerful existence. For this Xian to be able to become an inner disciple of the 6th grade sect, the Imperial Sword faction, and have the hope of being promoted to a core disciple, she is already a genius among geniuses. Even more powerful than my aunt. Dongfang Jian asked in surprise. There's always someone better than you. When you can advance to that level, your horizons will naturally widen. The path of cultivation is endless. Chen Hao, on the other hand, was extremely calm, because he had already learned about the existence of a higher level from Xia Yuyu. Whether Huang Qi knew or not, he wasn't sure. However, charging out of the rookie ranking, advancing to the 100 Empire ranking, and stepping into a sect that surpassed the Empire was not his end. Taking a deep breath, Chun Hao's eyes shone with a sharp glint. It seemed like a simple introduction, but it contained a subtle contrast of power. Among the 33 super existences, 10 of them came from the Xuanwu Empire's New Show Hall. The lowest sect was a 4th grade sect. As for the other 23, including Dongfang Ting, they were all 3rd grade, 2nd grade, and even 1st grade sections. Dongfang Ting belonged to the 3rd grade sect, Zhaixing sect, and was the only one in the Jin Kingdom. The Great Qian Kingdom had 2, the Star Luo Kingdom had 2, and most of the other kingdoms had 1, while some kingdoms had none. For this year's rookie ranking competition, they will form the members of the arbitration group. The Emperor of the Xuanwu Empire will be the head of the arbitration group, and I will be the deputy head. You may begin. After Mu Qing finished speaking, she looked at the old man who had been waiting at the edge of the arena. The old man respectfully cupped his fists and bowed. His figure flashed, and he arrived at the edge of the arena near the spectator stands. He said in a low voice, "There are a total of 133 disciples who have qualified for this year's rookie ranking competition. 13 of them have entered the Cloud Mountain Range to train and have yet to return. The remaining 120 are exactly the same. I'm sure all of you are clear about the rules of the competition, so I won't repeat them here. The 5 seeded contestants have been determined through the arbitration group and the preliminaries of the rookie ranking competition. The first is the Empire's New Show Hall's chief disciple, Enai Jian Pain, a 2nd grade martial ancestor. The second is the Azure Dragon Hall's chief disciple, Li Yifeng, a 1st grade martial ancestor. The third is the White Tiger Hall's chief disciple, Yang Fan, a 1st grade martial ancestor. Second update. Dark Mountain will continue writing the 3rd update. Please support me with your monthly votes. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 137. 3rd update. Are there any more monthly votes? It's about to reach the climax. Wushan doesn't dare to guarantee anything, but I will strive for the 4th update tomorrow. If you have the monthly votes, please provoke Wushan. Let Wushan be a man for once. Walla, Enai Jian Pain, Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, Li Yifeng, Li Yifeng. The area where the disciples of the Empire's new Excellence Hall were located immediately erupted with cheers. Enai Jian Pain and Yang Fan's names had only appeared for an instant before they were completely overshadowed by Li Yifeng's name. Especially some of the female disciples, they were screaming and shouting almost crazily. It couldn't be helped. Although Enai Jian Pain and Yang Fan possessed astonishing strength, when compared to the handsome and extremely popular Li Yifeng, their popularity in the Empire New Show Hall was greatly inferior. Especially among the female disciples, Li Yifeng was the Prince Charming in the hearts of many female disciples. The old man frowned slightly. His sharp gaze immediately swept toward the region where the disciples of the Empire Nusho Hall were. His powerful oppressive might immediately caused the crowd to quieten down. Only then did he continue. Fourth, Great Qian Kingdom Zimingho, rank 9 Martial Emperor. Although they knew it was not good to interrupt, the region of the Great Qian Kingdom that was right next to the Jinyuan Kingdom still burst into a short burst of cheers. Mingho, who was sitting right in front, only a few meters away from Chun Hao and the others, had an arrogant expression on his face. He stood up and clasped his fist toward the grand character of the Great Qian Kingdom. Then, he looked at Chun Hao with a provocative and ruthless gaze. Unfortunately, Chun Hao's expression did not change in the slightest. He simply did not look at him. "Pa, what's there to be proud of? It's merely a seated contestant. This idiot really thinks he's in the top 5. Dongfang Jun cursed. He had an even more arrogant and domineering expression as he looked at Mingho with disdain. Fifth, Great Victory Kingdom's Tantai Lian, rank 9 Intent Emperor. The old man announced the name of the final seated contestant. Hearing that name, Chun Hao's gaze couldn't help but look toward the region that burst into cheers. It wasn't because that person was a woman. Instead, it was because Tantai Lian was one of the experts that posed the greatest threat to Chun Hao. Rank 9 Intent Emperor. Even if it was an ordinary rank 9 Intent Emperor, their battle prowess would still be extremely frightening. Moreover, the other party was only a 19-year-old super genius. As expected of a beauty, and Helian cough, Dongfang Jun's eyes immediately lit up as he spoke. He originally wanted to say that she was similar to Helian Wuzi, but he didn't continue speaking halfway. She was indeed a beauty. The identity of intent made Tantai Lian look fragile. In the pink dress, just like her name, she was like a lotus flower that grew out of the mud without being stained. Her skin was whiter than snow, and her features were picturesque. No one would be able to associate such a delicate girl with an expert. However, his threat to Chun Hao was ranked 4th by Huangqi. He was second only to the 3 martial grandmasters and had even surpassed Mingho. The 5 seated contestants will be divided into groups 1 to 5 according to the order just now. Other participating disciples, please step onto the stage and draw lots. At this moment, the old man announced loudly. At the same time, a referee appeared in the middle of the arena with a huge black lottery box. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, figures soared into the air and flew onto the arena. Their expressions were solemn, and there was a slight trace of nervousness. Line up and follow the order. If you draw well, bring your lot to the referee's seat to register the 5 groups. The old man reminded. No way. I'm in the first group. F***CK. Group 2. Phew. Luckily, Group 4. After the disciples who drew lots, some were depressed and some rejoiced. Obviously, no one would have thought that the first 3 groups would have 3 martial grandmasters. Moreover, they were the strongest disciples of the Empire's Nusho Hall. Who would be willing to meet them? From the words of many disciples, it could be seen that everyone had thought of groups 4 and 5, especially Group 5. That was a beauty, a rank 9 and 10 emperor. Although she was also very strong, it was worth it to be able to exchange blows with such a beauty. Moreover, more importantly, Tantai Xian, this beauty, had a good reputation. In the 8-nation preliminaries, she didn't kill anyone, nor did she heavily injure anyone. She won by lightly injuring her opponent, or her opponent admitted defeat. Wah! Group 5, Chun Hao, Brother Cheap. I'm in the 5th group. Ha! Dongfang Jun, who was the first to draw lots, immediately shouted excitedly after seeing the group and number in his hand. Group 4, Dongfang Jian, then drew his lot and said. As he spoke, he also walked towards the registration of Group 4. Chun Hao's expression was calm as he casually drew his lot. However, after taking a look, he was slightly stunned. Although he didn't care, wasn't his luck too good? It can't be. When Dongfang Jun and Dongfang Jian saw Chun Hao walking towards Group 1 with his lot, they both felt sorry for Chun Hao. Chun Hao was the strongest out of the 3 and had the most hope. If he was in Group 4 or 5, even if Chun Hao was against Mingho and the Beauty, he would have a 30% chance of winning. However, against a rank 2 martial ancestor in Group 1, he simply had no chance of winning. In other words, the first in Group 1 would definitely be Giant Pain. Chen Hao could only fight for second place. This was equivalent to losing half of his chance. The competition has officially begun. Group 1, Empire's new show halls Giant Pain and Formless Kingdom's Li Guahao. Please enter the stage. The referee's vigorous voice resounded through the entire martial practice grounds. I admit defeat. The disciple called Li Guahao was unexpectedly straightforward. He didn't even enter the stage and spoke loudly. The referee directly announced Giant Pain's victory and invited Group 2's number 1 Yang Fan and number 2 to enter the stage. Number 2 was a rank 9 martial emperor from province. Although he knew his chances of winning were not high, he still bravely entered the stage. According to his understanding, Yang Fan was originally ranked last among the disciples of the 5 great palaces. Because he was the first to become a martial ancestor, he obtained the qualifications to be a seated participant. Yang Fan's ordinary appearance and ordinary aura caused him to not feel any fear. However, when he saw Yang Fan enter the stage while holding a sword with one hand, a trace of pity flashed through the eyes of the handsome and imposing Li Yifeng. In the entire Empire's new show hall, although Yang Fan was the head disciple of the White Tiger Hall and had displayed valiant strength, he had never used his sword. The only person who truly understood Yang Fan was Li Yifeng. Li Yifeng knew very well that this rank 9 martial emperor would not be able to see the sun tomorrow. The reason was very simple. The group stage and the top 10 ranking were both round-robin matches. The 2 people with the highest points in each group would advance to the top 10. As for the top 10, the top 5 people with the highest points would obtain the qualifications to participate in the 100 Empire ranking. Killing a person meant that only you could obtain that person's points. Compared to the 8 nations' new talent competition, it was even more cruel. And now, Yang Fan had entered the stage while holding a sword. What did this mean? He was going to unsheath his sword. Unsheath his sword must be dyed with blood. Wow. Senior brother Yang Fan is holding a sword. I've never seen him use a sword before. Senior brother Yang Fan has always been low-key. Even the head disciples of the 5 great palaces have never used a sword. I'm afraid that he's really serious this time around. It's very strange. Isn't senior brother Yang Fan proficient in fists and legs? His sword is clearly not a spirit artifact. Otherwise, how could he enter the stage with it? Who knows? Senior brother Yang Fan definitely has a spirit artifact. He is a disciple of the Empire's top family, the Yang family. Although he is not a direct descendant, the Yang family values him greatly. How could he not have a spirit artifact? Chen Hao's sharp hearing picked up the discussions of the disciples in the Empire's new show hall. His eyes were shining as he looked at the ordinary youth who had smiled at him before. From the depths of his heart, he felt that this ordinary youth was definitely not as simple as he appeared to be. There must be a demon behind this abnormality. If he was really that ordinary, how could he become a seated contestant? Boom! When the 2 of them stepped onto the stage, the edges of the stage started to shine with resplendent rays of light. In an instant, a transparent energy barrier appeared around the entire stage. This caused Chen Hao and the other disciples who had never seen the world to open their eyes wide. Yang Fan and that youth were actually magnified by several times in an instant and appeared clearly before their eyes. Match begin. Bang! Bang! Following the order from the referee, that rank 9 martial emperor youth suddenly stomped his feet and his body started to move with lightning speed. The protective energy around his body was also raised to the pinnacle. Facing Yang Fan, who was a martial ancestor realm cultivator, this youth was clearly planning to use a guerrilla tactic. He was planning to launch a fatal attack at an appropriate time. Only by doing so would he have a chance to win. On the other hand, the expressionless Yang Fan slowly narrowed his eyes. The treasured sword that he held in his hand trembled slightly. Then, like a breeze, his body disappeared from the crowd's eyes. Clang! The sound of a treasured sword being unsheathed was heard. In an instant, a chilly radiance blossomed. It was like a resplendent firework. This caused Chen Hao's eyes to suddenly shrink. Slightly shocked, he said, "Amazing." At the same time, the indifferent expressions of the peak experts on the viewing platform also changed slightly. Pooh! A muffled sound was heard at practically the same time. Other than the peak experts on the viewing platform, the martial ancestor realm experts below the viewing platform, and Chun Hao, who possessed abnormal talent, no one else was able to clearly see Yang Fan's movements of unsheathing, swinging his sword and sheathing his sword. All they saw was Yang Fan returning to his original position. As for that rank 9 martial emperor, he also stopped running. Disbelief and fear filled his eyes. After being motionless for half a second, a stream of blood spurted out from his throat with a poo sound. A single slash to the throat. The entire martial practice ground was filled with sounds of people sucking in cold air. Yang Fan's expression did not change in the slightest. It was as if what had happened earlier was completely unrelated to him. An ordinary figure, an ordinary face, an ordinary aura. However, at this moment, in the eyes of the crowd, Yang Fan had become incomparably frightening. This was especially true for some of the genius disciples who had drawn Yang Fan's group and wanted to defeat him. At this moment, they immediately suppressed those thoughts. A rank 9 martial emperor was unable to even withstand a single attack from Yang Fan. What sort of battle power was this? Fuck, is it true that only being more handsome than him is a merit? Li Yifeng cursed gloomily in a low voice. He was extremely jealous of Yang Fan, this act-tough god who had pretended to be a grandmaster. At the same time, he was also faintly afraid. Originally, he had thought that he would at least have a 40% chance of winning against Yang Fan. However, it would appear that even 30% was a problem. Number 1, Yang Fan wins. 3 points. The spirit formation dispersed. With a calm expression, Yang Fan returned to Li Yifeng's side. What are you looking at? No matter how much you look, I'm still more handsome than you, fuck. Isn't it only a single move? I only used half a move to end the match. Li Yifeng said gloomily. As he spoke, he had already stood up. As the number 1 in Group 3, it was time for him to enter the stage. P.S. Third update, requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Please vote for Wushan. Tomorrow, we will strive for a breakthrough. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come a Chidian. Come to vote for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 138. This is the first update. Today, I'm going all out. Brothers and sisters, please cast your monthly votes for Dark Mountain. The pursuers are ferocious. Please, everyone. Li Yifeng. Li Yifeng. The handsome Li Yifeng, who wore a white gown and had long hair fluttering in the wind, caused an uproar in the entire martial practice ground the moment he appeared. As he was fighting in his home ground, before the countless admirers of the Empire's new show hall, especially the female disciples, he displayed a craziness that shocked Chun Hao and the others. Half a move. Now that you've encountered a woman, I shall see how you're going to win with half a move. When Yang Fan saw a rank 8 martial emperor girl step onto the stage, the corners of his mouth rose into a smile as he thought to himself. Sure enough, it was as Yang Fan had said. Li Yifeng, who did not pay much attention to the contestants, simply did not expect that the number 2, who clearly had a very masculine name, was actually a petite, delicate, and pretty young girl. This caused Li Yifeng to immediately frown. Fuck, I've already boasted. Half a move, what am I going to do now? Li Yifeng's greatest weakness was that he had never killed women, especially beautiful women. Furthermore, in the Empire's new show hall, he was known to be a good man. In any competition, as long as he encountered a female disciple, as long as the female disciple's appearance was passable, he would patiently instruct them. Not only would he allow them to display their full strength, he would even instruct them in battle with a face full of smiles. Through this sort of method, he had captured the hearts of countless female disciples. Little sister, you're only a rank 8 martial emperor. Can you admit defeat? Li Yifeng looked to the young girl with a pained expression and spoke with a stern voice. Why? I know that I'm no match for you. However, I also know that you've never used violence against a girl. I'm very happy to be able to fight against you. My name is Du Yanan. My younger cousin is a disciple of your new show hall. The young girl looked to Li Yifeng with sparkling eyes. Without the slightest bit of nervousness, she spoke with a stern voice. Motherfucker, this is the new talent ranking competition. Is she still in heat? Li Yifeng felt even more pained. Little sister Yanan, I've only used half a move, and you've already admitted defeat. How about I ask you out another day? Today, I'm going to start a massacre. I made a bet. The pain Li Yifeng said in a very gentle and tempting manner. Really? The girl blushed. I've never lied to girls, especially such a beautiful and cute girl like you. That's great. Hit me then. The young girl's face immediately turned red as she puffed out her plump chest. F***CK. Li Yifeng almost went crazy. Shouldn't acting be more realistic? Li Yifeng hurriedly said again, if you attack me with all your strength and I only use half a move, you might be slightly injured. Just admit defeat. Oh, I understand. Therefore, when everyone did not understand why the two of them were staring at each other without moving, as if they were talking through sound transmission, the young girl activated her body protecting aura with a boom sound. Her figure flashed, and she shot out 2 palms as fast as lightning. The majestic yuan power condensed into 2 huge palms, whistling towards Li Yifeng. His strength was indeed formidable. Li Yifeng lightly smiled. He took a step forward and waved his palms to meet the incoming palms. However, he only managed to send out half of his palms when the girl shouted, I admit defeat. Li Yifeng retrieved his palms with lightning speed. However, the vigorous yuan power that he had already sent out rumbled and spread out, directly sending the girl flying. Like a kite with its string cut, she flew several tens of meters before she managed to stabilize herself. There was a trace of blood at the corner of the girl's mouth. However, her expression and appearance did not show the slightest bit of pain from defeat or injury. Instead, her little face was glowing with a trace of redness. Bitch, he must have used words to confuse this love-struck girl. Seeing this scene, Yang Fan cursed in his heart. However, the half of Li Yifeng's attack still caused him to praise him in his heart. Purely in terms of yuan power, Li Yifeng was not at all inferior to him. In the 4th group, the number 1 contestant, Mingho, also displayed astonishing battle power. In a short 2 minutes, he defeated his rank 9 martial emperor opponent. Unfortunately, he was unable to kill his rank 9 martial emperor opponent. In the 5th group, the number 1 beauty, Tantai Lien, surpassed everyone's expectations. At the instant the match began, her condensed, boundless, and frightening spirit power condensed into incomparably sharp and formless sword rays. She directly dismembered her rank 8 martial emperor opponent and killed him on the spot. Compared to Yang Fan, the contrast between the bloody scene and the calm expression on his face was even more shocking. This caused Dongfang Jun, who was in the 5th group, to be stupefied and terrified. Killing a person and defeating a person were 2 completely different concepts. If one killed their opponent, no one would be able to obtain their opponent's 3 points. If one was defeated, others would be able to obtain their opponent's 3 points as long as they defeated their opponent. Using their points, one would become a cold-blooded and cruel fuse. Fortunately, after the 5 seeded contestants, it was very difficult for a situation where one was able to kill their opponent to appear. After all, none of the people that were able to enter the new talent competition were weak. Furthermore, the disparity in their battle power would not be too great. When one was certain that there was no hope for victory, it was still possible for one to admit defeat. Soon, the number 7 contestants of the 5th group, Dongfang Jun, and the number 8 contestant, Dongfang Jun, appeared at the same time. His opponent was a rank 8 martial emperor. Dongfang Jun was not afraid in the slightest. Right after the referee's words left his mouth, he arrogantly leaped onto the stage with a cold expression. Dongfang Jun, who was wearing the golden silkworm treasured cloak, had a powerful spirit artifact and possessed powerful battle power, easily defeated his opponent and obtained 3 points. This caused the entire region of the Jinyuan Kingdom to burst into cheers. What are you being complacent for, to encounter me. If you have the guts, then don't admit defeat. At the moment when Dongfang Jun returned to his seat with a complacent expression, Yin Feng Han, who was sitting several meters to his left, revealed a disdainful expression on his face. With his rooster-like voice, he spoke provocatively. Damned eunuch. You're in the 5th group? Very well, rest assured, I, Dongfang Jun, am a man. A damned eunuch like you, who is neither male nor female, is not qualified to make me admit defeat. I'll be waiting. To Dongfang Jun's surprise, the damned eunuch did not get angry. Instead, he looked at Dongfang Jun with disdain. After he finished speaking, he turned his head around. The battles were still in full swing. After over 10 battles in a row, the number 15 of the 4th group, Dongfang Jian, stepped onto the stage again. His opponent was also a rank 9 martial emperor. Furthermore, he possessed a powerful spirit artifact. Dongfang Jian retreated with light injuries. He was defeated. 5th group's number 21, Fan Rue from the Fluttering Rain Kingdom, and number 22, Chun Hao from the Jinyuan Kingdom. Please step onto the stage. It was finally time for Chun Hao to step onto the stage. Chun Hao, kill as many as you can. By keeping them alive, you are giving your opponent a chance. You have a very high chance, Huang Qi said with a deep voice. As of now, only the number 23 and 24 from the 1st group had yet to step onto the stage. The number of people who possessed the strength to compete with Chun Hao could be determined. Excluding Ni Giant Pain from the 1st place in the group, Chun Hao still had a very high chance of obtaining the 2nd place in the group. The prerequisite was that Chun Hao was ruthless enough. Chun Hao lightly nodded his head. Then his body shifted and he flew onto the stage. Fan Rue, peak rank 8 martial emperor. He defeated a seeded contestant and advanced to the rookie list. He possesses a spirit artifact. Fan Rue's information flashed through Chun Hao's mind. He coldly looked at the youth with a serious expression and landed 100 feet away from him. Fan Rue also knew about Chun Hao's information. He only had a 20% chance of winning this battle. However, as he was already over 20 years old, this was his final chance. Even if he was unable to enter the top 10, he must still fight with all his strength and obtain a decent ranking, even if it meant death. The reason for that was because this would be the most glorious moment of his life. How many moves do you think he will use to end the battle? After Chun Hao stepped onto the stage, the Lazy Yong fans' eyes immediately shone. He sat up straight and patted Li Yifeng, who was beside him. 3 moves. Li Yifeng narrowed his eyes and said, "How many do you think he will use?" 1 move, and his opponent will die. 1 move, and his opponent will die. Yang Fan, you think too highly of this boy, no? While his battle power is very strong, don't forget that he is only a rank 7 martial emperor right now. Yang Fan smiled lightly. He did not explain. Instead, he said, "Bet. Sure, let's bet. However, I'll bet 2 moves, and his opponent will die." Li Yifeng said shamelessly. "You don't even have confidence. You've already lost." Yang Fan smiled lightly. His eyes were shining as he looked to the stage. However, soon after, Yang Fan started to frown. Li Yifeng started to laugh complacently. The reason for that was because the battle had already begun. Yet, Chun Hao did not reveal his absolute power. He was actually holding a shiny silver sword. He did not use his ultimate flying blade skill, nor did he use his Valiant Ring's spiritual treasure to fight against his opponent. In an instant, 3 moves had passed. It was not only Yang Fan who was frowning. Dongfang Ting, Dongfang Jun, Huang Qi, Zhao Xingchen, and the others were also frowning. According to Dongfang Ting's estimations, this opponent should not be able to withstand a single blow from Chun Hao. In the entire group, other than the rank 2 martial ancestor Realm and I, Giant Pain, there were only 3 people who could pose a threat to Chun Hao. He had a very high chance of obtaining 2nd place in the group. Yet now, how could his battle power be so weak? Especially in terms of origin energy, it actually did not increase much compared to when he was a rank 5 martial emperor. He was completely suppressed by his opponent's frightening origin energy. Fuck, what is Chun Hao doing? Didn't Ant say that his battle power was very strong? How come his absolute power did not increase much even after increasing by 2 levels. Dongfang Jun opened his eyes wide in confusion. Seeing you in person is not as good as hearing about you. Fortunately, I did not admit defeat. Ha, prepare die. 1. Sword devastation. 5 minutes. For an entire 5 minutes, even though Chun Hao fought steadily and surely, a trace of blood actually flowed out from the corner of his mouth before his opponent's absolute power. This caused Fan Rue to become braver and more confident. After he forced Chun Hao back several meters with a single sword strike, he no longer had any misgivings and started to laugh loudly. As he spoke, he pushed his power to the limit. With a flick of his wrist, a bright and frightening sword ray shot toward Chun Hao. However, right at this moment, cries of alarm burst forth from the crowd. Pooh! When Fan Rue gathered all the energy in his body into his attack and unleashed his most powerful attack, a throwing knife noiselessly pierced into his neck from behind. Fan Rue did not even bother to protect his body. Rumble! As for Chun Hao, his wrist shook violently. He swung his sword repeatedly and retreated explosively to block Fan Rue's frightening attack. Only when he reached the edge of the stage did he stabilize himself. Then, he vomited a mouthful of blood. His opponent died, and Chun Hao was injured. How could he be so weak? So weak that he had to use a sneak attack to barely obtain victory? Dongfang Ting was confused. Dongfang Jian, Dongfang Jun, Huang Qi, Zhao Xingchen, and the others who were familiar with the astonishing increase in battle power in the past 3 months were also confused, requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. The first update has arrived. Today, Wushan will fight to the death for the 4th update. Please give Wushan some encouragement. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 139. Second update. I woke up at 5 a.m. last night. 12,000 at 4 p.m. I will definitely finish before 12 p.m. Wushan is fighting hard. Brothers and sisters, monthly votes. Only a pitiful 6 today. Please, everyone. Dongfang Ting and the others obviously did not think that Chun Hao only had this much battle power. They just did not understand why Chun Hao did not hesitate to get injured and hide his strength. Similarly, Yang Fan, who always trusted his intuition, also did not understand why Chun Hao, who gave him a sense of danger, would do this. What kind of *T genius is this? He increased by 2 ranks, but his battle power did not improve. I think he is more like a piece of trash, Mingho said disdainfully when Chun Hao returned to his seat with blood at the corner of his mouth. There are many people like this who are amazing at the beginning, but become mediocre later on. Crown Prince, to think that we thought of him as one of our strongest competitors. We were blind, haha. While Mingho and the others were discussing, Uniqin Fenghan and the others were also full of disdain and ridicule after seeing Chun Hao's performance. In the entire training ground, many people from other kingdoms and provinces who thought of Chun Hao as one of their strongest competitors were secretly happy. Especially the experts in Chun Hao's group, they all let out a big sigh of relief. Chun Hao's expression was serious. He sat down with a cold face, as if he was dissatisfied with the crowd's discussion. He fiercely wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. He did not even pay attention to the questioning gazes of Dongfang Jun, Huang Qi, and the others. He directly closed his eyes and began to heal. This made Huang Qi and the others worried. Could it be that Chun Hao's body really had a problem? The battle was still in full swing. After the first round, it was time for number 1 to fight number 3, number 2 to fight number 4. Those who died in battle would be given a break. Since everyone had to fight against all the opponents in their group, it was easy to arrange. Round after round, the strongest contestants in each group gradually emerged from the water, displaying astonishing battle prowess. In the 3 rounds, Chun Hao did not meet any strong opponents. They were all at the same level as his first opponent. However, Chun Hao was always able to rely on his sneak attack, throwing knives to win and kill his opponents. This made everyone feel a trace of fear towards Chun Hao's luck and his strange throwing knives. They were not afraid of Chun Hao's strength, but Chun Hao's luck. His points temporarily rose to first place in the group and tied with the other two strong contestants. Ni Jianping, the second-rank martial great grandmaster. The reason was simple. Ni Jianping had encountered a dead account in the third round, which was equivalent to a truce. Until now, he had not even had a chance to make a move because he had admitted defeat in the first two and fourth rounds. He did not even move, did not fight. Similarly, Yang Fan and Li Yifeng didn't have the chance to attack again. Their opponents had directly admitted defeat. With such an absolute difference in strength, no one was willing to waste their strength, even if it meant death. After Tantai Lien brutally killed her opponent in the second round, her opponent also admitted defeat in the following round. Amongst the 5 seeded contestants, Mingho was the most miserable. Although he won every time, he was unable to kill anyone who dared to fight. Otherwise, he would have admitted defeat. It was obvious that the weakest of the 5 seeded contestants was him. It was only at this time that Yang Fan looked at Chun Hao with a look of realization. He regretted a little that his performance was too terrifying. Of course, it was only a little. After all, there were very few people who had the ability to kill their opponents. Other than the 4-seeded contestants, only Chun Hao had successfully killed all of them in the later rounds. This kind of perfect battle strength, scheming truly shocked Yang Fan. The 5th round finally began. Dongfang Jun did not appear and immediately admitted defeat because his opponent was an existence that had displayed absolute strength. He was still young, so there was no need for him to risk his life. The chances of him losing were too high, so he might as well preserve his strength and welcome the next battle. After 5 rounds, 3 wins, 1 loss, 1 admission of defeat, 9 points. Dongfang Jian, 2 wins, 3 losses, 6 points. Finally, it was Chun Hao's turn again. This time, Chun Hao's opponent was Jian Fenglu, who had the same number of points as him and was ranked first in the 5th group. Jian Fenglu, the chief disciple of Starfish Kingdom, was a peak 9th grade sword emperor and had a powerful spiritual sword. Sword Emperor was a real swordsman who had comprehended sword intent. His battle strength was so high that before the start of the competition, he was evaluated by Huang Qi and others as a strong opponent who was not inferior to the seeded contestant, Mingho. In the first 4 rounds, he killed 1 person with a sword and 3 of them admitted defeat. When he saw the 2 of them appear, Yang Fan knew that Chun Hao could not hide his strength anymore. All the disciples in the martial arts practice field were in an uproar, especially the camp of the disciples who had been killed by Chun Hao in the first 4 rounds. They were even clamoring, "Kill him! Kill him!" In everyone's opinion, Chun Hao had killed 4 people in a row by relying on a sneak attack with a flying dagger. Moreover, the opponents he had encountered were not strong. He was an existence that had walked into dog shit. Now that he had encountered a 9th grade sword emperor who had the strength of a seeded contestant, his luck was about to come to an end. Even those who knew Chun Hao's real combat strength held their breaths nervously. This battle was not only a battle of victory and defeat. Unless Chun Hao admitted defeat, it could be a battle of life and death. A swordsman, any swordsman that had comprehended sword intent, possessed a sharp heart that revealed its sharpness and pointed the sword at the sky, just like the tip of a sword. Considering your age, your strength is not bad. You are sinister and ruthless enough. You're also lucky. Unfortunately, you have met me. Your good luck will come to an end. When a referee announced the start of the competition, Jian Fenglu, who was 100 feet away, said casually, "Clang." As he spoke, Jian Fenglu unsheathed his sword. His sword intent, which was extremely sharp and pointed to the sky, started to wreak havoc. The corners of Chun Hao's mouth curled up slightly. At this moment, his expression changed. The seriousness and caution of the previous 4 rounds had disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by absolute arrogance. Arrogance that looked down on the opponent and looked down on the world. His eyes were as sharp as swords and could pierce through people's hearts. Clang! The silver moonlight sword emitted a clear, and melodious sword cry as it appeared in Chun Hao's hand with a buzzing sound. It was the same sword that had been used in the previous 4 rounds and appeared in Chun Hao's hand. However, at this moment, it was completely different from the previous 4 rounds. The cold sword radiance, which had not been used yet, emitted a chill that made people's hair stand on end. Faintly, everyone was shocked to feel a sword intent. However, it was an ethereal and unpredictable sword intent. Hiss! The sound of air being torn apart was heard. Chun Hao did not give his opponent a chance to be shocked. He took a step forward, held his sword, and attacked. "You are courting death." Boom! Jian Fengliu's slightly shocked expression immediately turned into anger. He did not expect Chun Hao to have hidden his strength. In fact, it was not only him who did not expect this. Besides those who knew Chun Hao well, no one else expected this. This was because Chun Hao's disguise was too realistic. In every battle, he was clearly injured. Moreover, it was not light. He won every battle with great difficulty. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Once Jian Fengliu attacked, he was like an unsheathed sword. He became one with the sword and emitted terrifying sword radiance that went against Chun Hao. The distance of 100 zhang was covered in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. After a short period of intense sword radiance, the two of them were competing with real strength and sword skills. Jian Fengliu displayed the terrifying strength of a swordsman. His moves were ever-changing and were as fast as lightning. However, Chun Hao, who was not favored, was not at a disadvantage at all. With the moonlight sword in his hand, Jian Fengliu attacked the vital points of Jian Fengliu. What was more shocking was that Jian Fengliu, a 9th-grade sword emperor, did not have the slightest advantage in terms of absolute strength. Ding, ding, ding. In an instant, 10 moves were exchanged. Both of them were pushed back 10 zhang. Thunderous sword. After a slight pause, Jian Fengliu felt how powerful Chun Hao was. Without any hesitation, he stabbed again and executed his most powerful sword skill. Rumble. Kacha! A thunderous sword radiance seemed to tear through the void. It was as fast as lightning and went straight for Chun Hao's throat. Chun Hao's eyes narrowed. The origin energy in his body suddenly poured into the moonlight, soared violently. With a flick of his wrist, 9 resplendent crescent moons instantly condensed into a huge full moon at a speed that could not be seen by the naked eye. The cold moonlight seemed to have completely devoured the heat and light of the scorching sun. The entire arena suddenly turned into night. Only the full moon hung high in the sky, and the moonlight shone in all directions. The bone-chilling cold energy was like a continuous wave of anger. Boom, boom, boom. It blocked Jian Fengliu's thunderous sword strike. Ding! Rumble! At the moment when their treasured swords collided, the terrifying shock wave caused the barrier that enveloped the entire arena to tremble violently. It caused the two figures to shake violently as if they were in turbulent water. What a terrifying sword aura. This Chun Hao actually hid his strength so deeply. Amazing. Senior brother Jian executed the thunderous sword technique. That Chun Hao actually managed to block it. What's the hurry? The thunderous sword technique has a total of 9 moves. Senior brother Jian only executed 1 move. That Chun Hao can block 8 moves at most. The last move is the real trump card, Thunderous Ninth Heaven. Sword cleaves the world. Both of them were pushed back at the same time. Both of them flew back 300 zhang before they landed on the ground. Both of them had the same cold expression. Their gazes were as sharp as swords. However, their hearts were heaving up and down violently. It was obvious that neither of them felt good after the collision of their trump cards. You are indeed very powerful. However, it is impossible for you to defeat me. I would like to see if you can block my sword. Come! Thunderous Ninth Sword Technique cleaves the world. Before Jian Fengliu could finish his sentence, he took a step forward. An extremely sharp sword aura burst out from his body and shot toward Chun Hao. At the same time, the thunderous sword radiance became several times more terrifying. The entire arena was illuminated by a sea of blue. One sword to decide the outcome of the battle. Victory or defeat depended on this move. Jin Fenglu was also forced to do this. His internal organs were faintly churning. It made him realize how powerful Chen Hao was. If he delayed any longer, he was worried that he would not have the ability to execute the strongest move of the thunderous sword technique. The raging lightning sword light rumbled as it swept towards Chen Hao. That boundless and terrifying energy caused the entire martial arts practice field to tremble violently. The eyes of the experts on the rostrum shone with a glimmer of light. As for Huang Qi, Dongfang Jun, Zhao Xingchen, and the rest of the people from the Jinyuan kingdom, they all widened their eyes nervously and held their breaths. Even Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, and Ni Jianping, the three Grandmaster experts, narrowed their eyes. Would Chen Hao be able to block such a horrifying attack? Second update. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. There are 2 more updates tonight. Please give me some support. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 140. Third update. Begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Dark Mountain continues to fight for the 4th update. Please, everyone, support Dark Mountain. If you still have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. Under the cover of the lightning sword, there was no way to dodge. At this critical moment, Chen Hao's clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. His shrunken pupils shone with a sharp light, and he suddenly moved, step back, sword down, body turn, bow, sword out, stab. Every movement, every detail was clear and full of rhythm, but it was smooth and unobstructed, simple and direct, as if he was accumulating strength, causing time to freeze. Everyone could clearly see that Chen Hao's valiant protective aura was rapidly disappearing, and all the energy in his body were condensed on the treasured sword without leaving a trace behind. At the moment when the sword was out, buzz! The moonlight sword suddenly produced a terrifying sonic boom. A cold, resplendent, and solid full moon shot out with a boom. Crash! At this moment, even the super experts on the rostrum widened their eyes in shock, and Dongfang Ting almost screamed out loud. Madness. Selflessness. Yes, it was madness. Madness to the point of disregarding everything. It was selflessness, forgetting success or failure, forgetting life and death. Only one sword. One sword that gathered all the energy in one's body and mind. After the sword was out, Chen Hao's face turned pale, and his energy was depleted. Everyone understood that his sword had drained him dry. There was no self in heaven and earth, only the sword. Boom, boom, boom. Streaks of terrifying lightning sword light bombarded the bright full moon. But the moon that was condensed to the extreme showed no signs of breaking apart except for trembling. It broke through the lightning sword light like a hot knife through butter, and with a bang, it exploded in front of Jin Fenglu's chest. There were no screams, only blood and flesh splattered everywhere, and a bloody mist filled the sky. Chen Hao still maintained his sword stance. His left leg was in front of him, and the tip of his sword was pointed in the direction of the blood and flesh splattered everywhere. But his right leg, which was originally straightened, bent and half knelt on the ground. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were dim, but they were still as sharp as a sword. The entire martial arts arena was silent. Behead, a 9th-grade sword sovereign, a person who had a high chance of getting second place in the group and a top 5 contestant, was actually killed by Chen Hao in such a tragic manner. Number 22, Chen Hao wins. After being stunned for a few seconds, the referee's loud and shocked voice rang out. Whoosh! Without another word, Huang Qi turned into a stream of light and appeared beside the exhausted Chen Hao. He stuffed the high-grade pills he had prepared into Chen Hao's mouth and quickly brought Chen Hao back to the stands. Zhao Xingchen was unwilling to pass on his responsibility. He placed his palm on Chen Hao's vital gate, and vigorous and pure elemental energy surged into Chen Hao's dried-up dantian. There was still one more round in today's competition. Chen Hao had to recover to his peak state in the shortest amount of time in order to continue. Everyone knew this, and all the contestants also enjoyed this treatment after the battle. Moreover, after 5 rounds, some of the 24 contestants in each group had died, especially in the group that Chunhao was in. Up until now, Chunhao had killed 5 contestants by himself. Jian Fenglu had killed 1, and another powerful disciple had killed 1. Out of the 24 contestants, only 17 were left. The duration of each round would be greatly reduced. There wasn't much time to recover, and every second had to be seized. Yunfian stared blankly at Chunhao, who had closed his eyes and was immersed in his cultivation. She, who was astute, had always thought that she had seen through this devilishly talented junior brother of hers. Although he looked cold and heartless on the outside, he was affectionate and righteous on the inside. He had a clear distinction between good and evil. Occasionally, under his passion, there was even a hint of shyness of a little boy. However, after today's battle, she realized that her understanding of him was not deep enough. Chunhao's coldness, insanity, and obsession to win seemed to surpass everything. No one could stop him. This Chunhao is not bad. If he can obtain the right to enter the 100 Empire ranking, our Flying Sword faction will take him. Xian, who was sitting beside the Empire's king, narrowed her eyes slightly as she stared at the extraordinarily handsome but pale Chunhao, who was recovering. Although her voice was faint, it was overbearing. The other super experts who had similar thoughts heard Xian's words. Although they were helpless, they gave up on their plans. After all, the Flying Sword faction was a 6th-rank faction, and far from what they could compare to. As long as Xian wanted him, Chunhao would naturally choose the Flying Sword faction if he wasn't a fool. Unless Chunhao could once again obtain impressive results in the 100 Empire ranking and gain the favor of many powerful factions. However, that was obviously impossible. Dongfang Ting frowned slightly. It was obvious that although Chunhao's cultivation was not strong, his age, battle prowess, and talent had a huge advantage, causing him to gain the favor of many. Mingho, after entering the top 10, this kid might be one of your biggest obstacles. Are you confident? Under the same level of power, speed is the only thing that can't be defeated. Moreover, I'm not just fast. He doesn't know any of my trump cards, and he's already exposed all of them. If he encounters me, only death awaits him. On the other hand, Tantai Xian, a 9th rank in 10 Emperor, might be a little troublesome, but only a little troublesome. It's not enough to threaten me. Don't worry, I have no problem entering the top 5. That's good. If you encounter him, you must not hold back. Even if you have to expose all of your trump cards, you must kill him. Otherwise, 2 years later, I'm afraid no disciple will be able to contend with him. Otherwise, our great Qian kingdom might be surpassed by the small Jinyuan kingdom. Do you even need to say that? Not only do I want to kill him, I want to dismember him into 1,000 pieces. Mingho said through gritted teeth. As a top genius, he was always the center of attention no matter where he went. Even the 3 great martial arts grandmasters of the Empire's new show hall were nothing to him. The reason was simple. Although his cultivation was inferior to the 3 of them, he was young. When he reached the age of Giant Pain and the other 2, his body and mind would definitely be much stronger than theirs. However, the 15-year-old Chunhao had snatched away his opportunity when the remains first appeared. Although Mingho didn't want to admit it, he knew that the legacy had chosen Chunhao and not him. Naturally, Chunhao had an advantage. This had already caused him to hate Chunhao. In addition to the tit-for-tat at the preliminary competition for the rookie list and the auction, Mingho already hated Chunhao to the bone. The only people who can compete with him are Great Qian Kingdom's Mingho and Shang Kingdom's Tantai Xian. Very interesting. If there are no accidents, he will advance as the first in his group. Furthermore, his points are very likely to be the highest among our 5 groups. This Chunhao's talent, comprehension, temperament, and luck are really enviable. After the competition started, Yang Fan returned to his lazy state and leaned back on his seat as he spoke to Li Yifeng. Yang Fan, you thought highly of him from the start. Could it be that you already knew? For the first time, Li Yifeng didn't deny Yang Fan's words. Instead, he asked curiously. Chun Hao had hidden his strength from the start and won by a narrow margin every time. His opponents weren't afraid at all, and none of them admitted defeat. In the end, they were all killed by him. After killing one, it meant that those who didn't fight with the person who was killed wouldn't be able to obtain the 3 points. There were only 3 ways to obtain points: victory, opponent admitting defeat, and killing. After the opponent died, it meant that the subsequent battles were canceled. Others couldn't use the dead to obtain points. Now, among the 5 people that Chun Hao had killed, 3 of them didn't meet Ni Giant Pain. However, since they had died, it meant that Ni Giant Pain couldn't obtain the 9 points. The advantage was very obvious. Even if Chun Hao lost to Ni Giant Pain, his points would still be higher than Ni Giant Pain. It's just my intuition. It made me feel a trace of danger, Yang Fan said with a slightly solemn expression. At the same time, he looked at Li Yifeng and said, "If you and I encounter him, we can't underestimate him either." Is it that serious? Just now was already his limit, right? It was his limit, but my intuition is very accurate. The 5th round of the competition ended quickly. The 6th round, which was the last round of the day, started directly without any delay. In the first round of the first group, Ni Giant Pain once again met someone who admitted defeat directly. Experts were lonely. This brother was really too lonely. From the start of the competition until now, Yang Fan and Li Yifeng had more or less fought once. Although Li Yifeng's battle was similar to not fighting at all, he still made a move. But until now, he didn't even have a chance to make a move. Subsequently, Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, Yimingho, and Tan Tai Xian also didn't have a chance to make a move before their opponents admitted defeat. At this point in the competition, everyone was basically clear about everyone's strength in their hearts. Especially the few contestants who were certain to enter the top 10, their opponents almost all admitted defeat directly. Even the contestants with similar strength no longer fought with their lives on the line. If there was no hope of entering the top 10, who would fight with their lives on the line? If there was a 40% to 50% chance of winning, they would fight with all their might. If there was a 30% to 30% chance of winning, they would admit defeat directly. As a result, the speed of the competition became faster and faster. In less than half an hour, it was Chun Hao's turn again. In such a short time, how much could Chun Hao, who was completely exhausted just now and might have suffered a huge backlash and serious injuries, recover? This question was very worthy of deep thought. Just as everyone's eyes were fixed on Chun Hao, who was called up to the stage, with a boom, the pale-faced Chun Hao leaped up and flew into the arena. Suddenly, a woman's scream came from beside Chun Hao. Yunfian looked frightened and said loudly, "Junior brother, come back. You're already like this. Just admit defeat. Anyway, you have the highest points now. It's okay to lose one round. Chun Hao F***CK, are you crazy? You haven't even recovered 20% of your injuries. Do you want to die?" Dongfang Jun also stood up and shouted loudly. At the same time, Huang Qi, Zhao Xingqian, and the others were shocked and worried. There is no such thing as admitting defeat in my dictionary. Chun Hao, who was standing upright on the arena like a sword, said firmly in a low voice. However, his trembling legs gave people the feeling that he was like a toad propping himself up on a table, stubbornly resisting the weight of the table. "Ha ha! I admire you." The other contestant from the Daqian Kingdom was still hesitating, but at this moment, with a boom, he rushed into the arena and said with a laugh, "Your courage is commendable. I admit that you're very powerful, but you want to fight with me in your current state? Ha! P.S. Are there any more monthly votes? Please vote for Wu Shan. Thank you. Try to get the 4th update before 12 o'clock. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 141. Junior brother, don't Chun Hao. F***CK. Admit defeat, come back. Yunfian and Dongfang Jun's voices were full of emotion. Their worry was unforgettable, as though they had seen Chun Hao's death. One vividly displayed the reluctance and longing of a delicate woman for the man she liked. The other vividly displayed the brothers' joys and sorrows, life and death together. Are you sure you can compete? Even the referee was angry. He couldn't help but ask Chun Hao. I'm sure. Chun Hao's solitary life technique restrained 90% of his aura. He glanced at Yunfian and Dongfang Jun, lightly shook his head, and said stubbornly. But in his heart, he admired the performance of these two people. Originally, Chun Hao had displayed his true strength and did not intend to continue hiding it. But after hearing that his opponent was a disciple of the great Qian kingdom, anger rose from his heart and he became bold. How could he let his opponent admit defeat? So, that was the current scene. Moreover, other than Huang Qi and a few others who knew, no one suspected that Chun Hao was faking it. After all, Chun Hao's rest time was too short, not to mention whether he was injured from the attack that surpassed his cultivation level. Even if he was not injured, he who had been drained of his essence and spirit had at most recovered 40% of his battle strength. Even the astute Yang fan believed that Chun Hao would give up on this meaningless match. Losing this match would not have much of an impact on him, who was in the lead. But Chun Hao wanted to fight, and he was so determined. How could this be? Yang fan was very puzzled. With Chun Hao's deep scheming, would he die for a single breath? No, definitely not. Yang fan frowned slightly and said in his heart. Then, a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. This fellow, could it be that he has really recovered? The match begins. The referee gave the order with difficulty. Die. Huh. That guy from the great Qian kingdom was precisely waiting for those words. Right after the referee's words left his mouth, he immediately unleashed all of his origin power. As a peak rank 8 martial emperor, how could he possibly let go of such an extremely rare opportunity? He took a step forward, raised his sword, and thrust his spear forward. He directly became one with his sword and condensed his strongest attack. He didn't even bother to release the sword light. He wanted to use his advantage of strength to destroy Chun Hao, who had been arrogant until now, with a single sword strike. Chun Hao's legs were trembling, his face was pale, and his pupils contracted. He could only watch helplessly as his insufferably arrogant opponent approached him like a bolt of lightning. 300 meters, 500 meters, 10 meters, 10 meters. Seeing that the terrifying sword was about to stab into Chun Hao's body, everyone's eyes widened. Some of them couldn't help but cry out in alarm. But at this moment, when he was only 10 feet away from Chun Hao, the aura that Chun Hao had restrained suddenly exploded like a flash flood. Whoosh! With a sweep of his sword, 9 resplendent crescent moons, like a string of pearls, rumbled as they smashed toward that brain-damaged guy. At the same time, Chun Hao's body suddenly fell backwards. His knees were on the ground, and his entire body was lying on the ground. Nimbly and elegantly, like an antelope's horn, he elegantly and heroically raised his sword. Pooh! His sword pierced through the opponent's heart. Immediately after, his body soared into the sky, streaked across a beautiful arc, and arrived above his opponent. Then, he violently pressed down. With a bang, his opponent was firmly pinned to the hard ground made of special materials. Idiot! Chun Hao looked at his opponent's eyes that were wide open in death and coldly spat out 2 words. Then, he directly unsheathed his sword, and with a sway of his body, floated down from the stage. How could there be a trace of paleness on his extraordinarily handsome and callous face? At this moment, Yang Fan, who had been praising Chun Hao to a certain extent, finally showed a trace of sluggishness in his eyes. He muttered 2 words, monster. Awesome. Li Yifeng's expression was even more shocked as he said, what an abnormal recovery ability. This time, the beautiful girl Tantai Lien, who was as delicate as a lotus flower, finally had a trace of astonishment in her eyes. Her black eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and a trace of seriousness appeared on her beautiful little face. Even when Chun Hao had defeated Jian Fenglu, she had not taken it seriously at all. But now, Chun Hao's abnormal recovery ability, as well as his absolutely strong physical body, made her have no choice but to reevaluate Chun Hao's strength. Especially, even with her 9th-stage Emperor Yi's super strong perception, she had not discovered Chun Hao's disguise. She had originally thought that she had seen through Chun Hao, but now it had become hazy once again. He has killed all 6 rounds. This Chun Hao is actually so powerful, it's too unbelievable. Now that he has 18 points, he is at the top of the list. He must have appeared in the group. He has killed 6 people by himself, and 4 of them were people that Senior Brother and I did not meet. This is an irreversible gap of 12 points. Senior Brother and I cannot compare. Yes, Senior Brother and I is really pitiful. After 6 rounds, no one dare to fight him. If another person like Chun Hao appears, won't Senior Brother and I, who is a 2nd-stage martial great master and the #1 expert, be eliminated? How is that possible? If that really happened, we can't use points to count. We can't let a true expert be eliminated. If Chun Hao had met Senior Brother and I and admitted defeat, would Chun Hao be allowed to fight? Even an idiot would understand this logic. The experts of the arbitration group would definitely not make such a low-level mistake. That's right. Haha. If Chun Hao did not admit defeat with Senior Brother Ni's personality, he would not hesitate to kill him. Senior Brother and I places a lot of importance on being #1. No one can fight with him for #1. Of course, how can the chief disciple of our empire's new show hall be under someone else? However, Chun Hao will definitely admit defeat. He only wants to advance and compete with the Mingho of the Great Qian Kingdom and the Beauty Tantai Lian of the Great Victory Kingdom, as well as the chief disciples of our Black Tortoise and Kylan Palaces. The top 3 will be ours without any suspense. Let's see who these 2 places belong to. In the noisy discussion of the crowd, the 6 rounds of the competition finally ended, and night quietly fell. In the autumn night, the autumn air was refreshing, the cool breeze was gentle, and the stars were bright. Everyone in the Jinyuan kingdom was in high spirits, and their faces were glowing. Yanfian was like a big sister, not restrained in the slightest. Under everyone's gaze, she intimately held onto Chun Hao's arm. Surrounded by the crowd, they cheerfully walked out of the palace and flew into the air, quickly returning to the courtyard arranged by the empire's new show hall. In the short span of a day, Chun Hao's status in the hearts of all the important figures in the Jinyuan kingdom had risen again. Although it was still uncertain whether Chun Hao would be qualified to enter the 100 Empire ranking, the clouds and mist had cleared, and the sun and moon had revealed themselves. It was much clearer than before the competition started. There was a lot of hope. After returning to the courtyard, even Yanfian did not dare to disturb Chun Hao. Without a doubt, the later rounds of the competition would be more dangerous. Therefore, Chun Hao only calmly enjoyed everyone's compliments and reminders for the upcoming competition with a neither servile nor overbearing expression, and then walked into the room alone. To fight or not to fight? In the cultivation room, Chun Hao sat cross-legged. However, he was not immersed in cultivation. Instead, he was thinking about what to do if he met an Jian Pain, 2nd grade martial ancestor realm. Furthermore, until now, an Jian Pain had not had the chance to make a move. Chun Hao simply could not guess what kind of battle strength such a super genius disciple had. This was not something that could be measured by demonic beasts. The sword had been unsheathed, and its sharpness was fully revealed. Chun Hao, who emitted arrogance in his bones, was naturally more inclined to pull out his sword and advance triumphantly. The battle intent in his bones was like a burning flame, completely erupting. But, facing a 2nd grade martial ancestor realm, Chun Hao did not have the slightest confidence, especially when his opponent did not make a move. From the beginning to the end, even his gaze did not change in the slightest. His aura was as heavy as a mountain, as if all the participating disciples were not qualified to enter his sight. This kind of arrogance and confidence was not the arrogance of a clown, but was built on absolute strength. In his mind, he slowly filtered through the scenes he had seen today one by one, as if they were images. Finally, he locked onto a few figures. N.I. Giant Pain was unfathomable and could not be seen through. Yang Fan and Li Yifeng also had outstanding strength and could not be seen through. Especially Yang Fan's shocking sword. It was extremely terrifying. Even Chun Hao did not have the confidence to retreat unscathed, not to mention that Yang Fan had only used one sword. It was almost certain that these three people would occupy 3 spots. Next was Tantai Lien. From the beginning, Chun Hao had treated Tantai Lien as one of his strongest competitors. How could a 9th grade Emperor Realm intent be simple? Especially after Tantai Lien displayed a terrifying mental attack. Chun Hao was even more certain of her strength. Then there was Yi Mingho, who was tit for tat, and who wished to cut the other into pieces. Intuition told Chun Hao that Yi Mingho was definitely hiding a trump card that had not been revealed until now. He definitely could not be underestimated. As for the others, the most threatening ones were the 2 first seats of the Empire's new show hall, the Black Tortoise Hall and the Qilin Hall. Chun Hao had a 70% chance of winning. Other than that, there was nothing else worthy of Chun Hao's attention. That damned eunuch Yin Fenghan. Even if he could make it into the top 10, he would be trampled on. If he met him and did not know what was good for him and dare to fight, there would only be one result: death. I'll not fight for now. I'll make sure to make it into the top 10 first. Chun Hao's brows relaxed, and he suppressed the battle intent in his heart. Not being afraid did not mean that he would take the risk. There was no such thing as admitting defeat in the dictionary. Only an idiot would believe that. Phew. Letting out a long sigh, Chun Hao's eyes shone with a bright light. Today's soul-stirring battle had given him a lot of enlightenment. The origin energy in his dantian and the mental strength in his mind had become more condensed and had faintly reached the peak of the 7th grade Emperor Realm. Whether or not he could comprehend the barrier was a small matter, but if he wanted to break through, Chun Hao knew that it was impossible. His powerful mortal body, dual cultivation of martial and intent, as well as the fact that these 2 barriers had fused into one, made it increasingly difficult for Chun Hao to break through. The main reason for this was that the amount of energy he needed to break through each barrier increased exponentially with each breakthrough. Compared to others, it was simply inconceivable. 4th update, finally completed before midnight. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 143. First update. Today, Dark Mountain will still fight. I can't guarantee that it will be done before midnight, but no matter how late it is, it will be done. I beg my brothers and sisters to fight with Dark Mountain and vote for Dark Mountain. I beg for votes. Dawn broke. A new day arrived in the blink of an eye. Chun Hao wore white clothes and had a refreshed expression. As he bathed under the morning sunlight, his handsome and extraordinary face flickered with a faint sheen. His composed and unhurried footsteps and his calm and concentrated aura seemed to be no different from yesterday. Yet the feeling he gave others was no longer the same. His powerful battle strength unknowingly gave him a halo in the eyes of the people. This was power, this was power, this was the so-called aura. Under the escort of Yunfian and the others, Chun Hao once again stepped into the dazzling and majestic Imperial Palace. A new day, a new beginning, a new battle. This was the path of the strong, and also a path of killing, filled with thorns and mud. At every moment, one would face the danger of life and death. Perhaps they would become the stepping stone of others, or they would kill their way out and stand out. Like the sun, slowly rising from the east, emitting a bright light. What this world lacked the most was geniuses. What lacked the least was also geniuses. Only those who could withstand the cruel test of life and death battles could be called true geniuses. In the short span of a day, how many of the youths who could be considered top geniuses in the various provinces and kingdoms had fallen in this cruel competition? Under the gaze of countless people, Chen Hao's expression did not change in the slightest, but the aura around him became even more condensed and sharp. Like an unsheathed sword, he cut through the thorns and thistles. If gods blocked him, he would kill gods. If demons blocked him, he would kill demons. No one could stop his advance. When the time was up, the competition began. The 7th round, the 8th round, the 9th round. The speed of progress was so fast that it completely exceeded everyone's expectations. Especially Ni Giant Pain, Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, Tantai Lian, Yi Mingho, and Chen Hao. After 3 consecutive rounds, none of them had the chance to make a move. In the 7th round, Dong Fongjun encountered the damned eunuch Yin Fenghan. Even though he knew that he was no match for Yin Fenghan, Dong Fongjun, who possessed the protection of his treasured clothing and the powerful spirit sword gifted to him by Dong Fongting, did not fear Yin Fenghan in the slightest. Furthermore, with his cultivation of rank 7 martial emperor, he displayed battle power that greatly surpassed his cultivation. Although he lost in the end, he came out unscathed. Not only that, this guy also used his sharp tongue to make Yin Fenghan, who won the competition, almost vomit blood. One had to know that Yin Fenghan had entered the scene with the intention of killing Dong Fongjun, but in the end, he didn't accomplish anything. Instead, he was given the nickname of Dead Eunuch Yin. Not to mention his face, even his, but was lost. Perhaps it was because he was in a good mood, but in the 8th and 9th rounds, Dong Fongjun was able to win by a hair's breadth against 2 weaker opponents. In the entire Group 5, his points were only second to the beautiful Tantai Lian and Yin Fenghan, placing him 3rd. Dong Fongjian, on the other hand, had won 1 match and admitted defeat in 2 of the 3 rounds of competition. Only in the 10th round did Yi Mingho's opponent not admit defeat, allowing him to win a battle first. His opponent was the first seat of the Martial Hall of the Empire's New Show Hall, Wei Chenbai. Peak rank 9 Martial Emperor. He already had a trace of the aura of return to the origin. He was only half a step away from becoming a martial ancestor. In the crowd's predictions, he was the one with the most hope of entering the top 10. In the 4th group, other than Yi Mingho, he was the strongest. Without a doubt, this battle was the one that everyone looked forward to the most after the start of the competition. Because up until now, Yi Mingho had not revealed his true strength. However, what disappointed Chen Hao and Tantai Lian was that even though Wei Chenbai had the strength of a half-step martial ancestor, he was still unable to force Yi Mingho to use his trump card. In a short 3 minutes, he admitted defeat and ended the battle. Everyone could not help but admit that Yi Mingho was indeed a rare super genius. The 10 rounds of competition that were originally scheduled to take place today ended just after noon. The judges announced that the competition would continue. When it came to the 20th round, Ni Giant Pain finally met Chen Hao. Originally, he was used to not moving when his name was called. This was because his opponents would usually admit defeat before entering the arena. There was no need for him to be like a clown, jumping into the arena and back again. However, this time, when the judge called his and Chen Hao's names, Ni Giant Pain jumped into the arena without any hesitation. Chen Hao had said yesterday that the word admit defeat did not exist in his dictionary. At the same time, Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, Tantai Lian, Yi Mingho, and the others immediately became alert. However, when everyone's eyes were focused on Chen Hao, Chen Hao did not move from his seat. His expression was calm, and he did not feel embarrassed at all. He said calmly, "I admit defeat." Voila, boos and discussions immediately erupted in the martial arts practice field. What the F***CK? Why did he admit defeat? Didn't he say yesterday that the word admit defeat did not exist in his dictionary? He actually admitted defeat. How disappointing. I'm still the wise one. I already guessed that he would admit defeat. How could he be Senior Brother Ni's opponent? With his scheming, it would be strange if he didn't admit defeat. Anyway, he'll definitely be able to advance from the group. If he fights now, what if he's killed by Senior Brother and I? Indeed, if I were him, I'd choose to admit defeat too. The crowd discussed animatedly. Yang Fan squinted his eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He looked at Li Yifeng and said, He really doesn't have any shortcomings. This kind of opponent is the most terrifying. Yang Fan, I'm sure that when this kind of person really grows up, he'll definitely be terrifying. Yes. This kind of person would be able to remain calm no matter what happened. He would never act on impulse and would never do meaningless things. It's really scary. He's the same as you. Damn it. My only shortcoming is that I'm too handsome. I can't help myself when it comes to beautiful women. Sigh. I know this, but why am I willing to endure it? The handsome Li Yifeng stroked his elegant long hair. His expression carried a hint of sadness as he said, narcissistically. Yang Fan rolled his eyes and leaned lazily on his seat. Humph. And I, Giant Pain, who was full of battle intent, had a cold expression on his face. His eyes were filled with disappointment and disdain. He glanced at Chun Hao and let out a cold harumph before flying back to his seat. A person who doesn't have the heart to forge ahead will have limited achievements. I've overestimated him. And I, Giant Pain, quickly suppressed the dissatisfaction in his heart and restored the aura that was as heavy as a mountain. He directly beat Chun Hao down from the same height. For the whole day, all the matches were not painful or itchy. It was impossible to set off the climax and excitement of yesterday. It had to be said that it was very dull. But everyone knew that this dullness was like the calm before the storm. Before the sky turned dark, the group matches were completed in advance. It was similar to everyone's expectations. There was only a little difference. In the first group, Chun Hao obtained first place with an absolute advantage in points. And I, Giant Pain, the tragic brother, didn't even fight once and was placed second. In the second group, Yang Fan and the first seat of the Blue Sky Kingdom went Beiming. In the third group, Li Yifeng and the first seat of the Qilin Hall, Nanmen Yi. In the fourth group, Yimingho and the first seat of the Black Tortoise Hall, Wei Chenbai. In the fifth group, Tantai Xian and Yin Fenghan. Only in the fifth group, the two people who qualified slightly exceeded everyone's expectations. The damned eunuch Yin Fenghan probably suffered too much humiliation from Dongfang Jun and had nowhere to vent his anger. He actually erupted and defeated a strong opponent to obtain second place in the group. He qualified together with the first place Tantai Lian. After the referee announced the top 10 list, the vice leader of the arbitration team, Mu Qing, floated down from the rostrum onto the stage. The first stage of the rookie ranking competition has ended. Apart from the top 10 contestants, every contestant present will receive a great reward from the Xuanwu Empire and a title from the Xuanwu Empire's king, according to your points and potential. Tomorrow, the top 10 round-robin competition will officially begin. Due to the importance of the top 10 competition, this year's top 10 contestants are rather special. The arbitration team has decided that in this year's top 10 competition, the arbitration team will directly determine the names of the two contestants. Moreover, each contestant will only fight once every day. All right, that's all for today. Go back and prepare. Mu Qing had just finished speaking when the battle stage erupted into heated discussions. What did this year's top 10 contestants are rather special mean? According to convention, the top 10 competition would still draw lots to determine their opponents. But now, the arbitration team had adjusted it to directly determine the names of the two contestants. This was something that had never happened in the previous top 10 competitions. Everyone was puzzled, but no one thought too much about it. After all, the top 10 competition was still a round-robin competition, and everyone had to fight. A day passed, and Chun Hao also experienced the loneliness of an expert. Today, he didn't fight even once. The only time he had a chance to fight, he chose to admit defeat. Master, after returning to the courtyard, everyone instructed Chun how to return to his room to recuperate and maintain his peak condition. Chun Hao had already stepped into his room, but he suddenly stopped and shouted at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan looked at Chun Hao in surprise and asked with concern with a smile on his old face. What's wrong? I want to ask Master for guidance. Oh, Fang Yuan was slightly stunned. Intent is rare, and intent experts are even rarer. Until now, I have no experience fighting an intent expert. That Tantai Xian, I'm not very confident, Chun Hao said frankly. Let me do it. Huang Qi suddenly volunteered. Chen Hao was slightly stunned. Huang Qi should be more suitable than master. What made Chen Hao even more shocked was that Feng Yuan actually said this without hesitation. This what? Looking down on old man? Kid, don't think I'm a rookie. Let's go. Huang Qi took a step and mysteriously disappeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao stared with wide-opened eyes in shock. When did this gatekeeper uncle, who had a good relationship with him, become so powerful? Wasn't he just a peak rank 9 and 10 emperor? Peak rank 9 and 10 emperor was indeed the same cultivation level as Tan Tai Lien, but this old man was already so old. How old was Tan Tai Xian? How could such talent and battle strength be compared? Chen had already guessed that Huang Qi was not simple, but as his cultivation level rose, the originally incomparably powerful Huang Qi was no longer as strong as before. But at this moment, Huang Qi's simple step made Chen Hao realize with shock that this was not something a peak rank 9 and 10 emperor could do. P.S. Requesting monthly votes, recommendation votes. Today, I will fight to the death. Please give me some encouragement and support. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 144. Second update. Dark Mountain will continue to vote for the third and fourth updates with all its might. Brothers and sisters who still have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. There is a difference of 20 votes between us and the first place. Can you help Dark Mountain catch up a little? Please, in the cultivation room. When Chen Hao walked in with a wisp of surprise on his face, Huang Qi was already sitting cross-legged at the center. His body flickered with a strange fluctuation that rippled outwards like ripples on the surface of a tranquil lake. Huang Qi's eyes were slightly closed, and his brows were tightly knit. It seemed like he was enduring an enormous amount of pain. Hiss, hiss, the gentle ripples vibrated more and more intensely, gradually becoming extremely ferocious, as if they had transformed into the churning waves of the sea, surging and surging. It actually made Chen Hao feel as if he was in the depths of the sea, as if he could be drowned at any time. Woo-woo, violent gusts of wind suddenly swept up in the huge cultivation room. Huang Qi's white hair and beard danced in the wind. His clothes fluttered like balloons. Chen Hao widened his eyes in shock. At that moment, he could clearly feel the terrifying power in Huang Qi's body. It was like an ancient beast that no one could stop. Was he still the cheerful and approachable gatekeeper? Phew! Chen Hao was stunned for several minutes before the violent fluctuations in the cultivation room suddenly calmed down with Huang Qi's deep and even exhalation. Eventually, they disappeared. The feeling of strength is so good. Huang Qi's old face revealed a complacent smile that seemed to have disappeared for countless years. He narrowed his eyes and stared at his hands that had become ruddy, plump, and no longer aged. After he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his head and looked at Chen Hao. Cough, cough. Uncle Huang, what are you doing? Chen Hao looked at the breathtaking eyes in shock and said in disbelief, You brat. How dare you look down on the old man? How is it? Am I strong enough? Strong. Very strong. Besides Mu Qing, Dongfang Ting, and the others, I haven't seen anyone stronger than Uncle Huang. Of course, they might not necessarily be stronger than you, Uncle Huang. Chen Hao spoke without hesitation with a trace of flattery. In reality, Chen Hao couldn't sense who was stronger between Huang Qi and Mu Qing, because no matter who it was, they all surpassed him by too much. There was no way to tell. But that didn't mean that Treasure Hunter's sword spirit couldn't. Ha! Your boot-licking uncle likes it. However, there indeed nothing in front of me, Huang Qi said proudly. From his expression and tone, it seemed as if he really didn't think much of Mu Qing and the other experts. When he spoke up to this point, his eyes suddenly narrowed slightly as he stared at Chen Hao and said, This is the first time in 60 years that the old man has broken the seal. Because of you, I'm afraid that I'll have to be sealed for another 8 to 10 years, or even longer. Hearing Huang Qi's words, Chen Hao scratched his head awkwardly and could not help but ask, Uncle Huang, why did you seal your power? I'm afraid of death. Treasure Hunter's sword spirit said, in Chun Hao's mind. I'm afraid of death. Huang Qi said, almost at the same time. Afraid of death? Chun Hao was shocked. If it were anyone else, I wouldn't have said it. But you, as long as nothing unexpected happens, you'll definitely be able to advance to my realm. There's no harm in telling you first. Huang Qi said. After a slight pause, he continued, the path of cultivation is to seize fate from the heavens and go against the heavens. All the realms of martial artists and those with intent might seem very powerful to you, but in fact, it's just the beginning. It's also within the scope of the heavenly Tao's laws. Compared to the higher realms, it's considered smooth sailing and there won't be any hardships. The higher realms are the realms that transcend the realm of martial artists. That's right. Cultivators, from apprentice level to master level, are collectively known as the acquired realm. Saint level to god level are known as the connate realm. The aura on your body has clearly grasped the mysteries of the 5 elements and the yin and yang of heaven and earth. It's only a matter of time before you step into the peak of the connate realm. Only after breaking through to the connate realm can you be considered to have truly entered the realm. At that time, every realm you advance is going against the heavens and changing your fate. If you succeed, your cultivation and lifespan will increase. If you fail, your body and soul will be destroyed. The first realm after the connate realm is the golden core realm. And I, your uncle, am in the second realm, the nascent soul realm. Golden core realm, nascent soul realm? Chun Hao's expression changed as he said with an extremely shocked expression. At this moment, the Taoist techniques recorded in the Taoist canon secrets involuntarily appeared in his mind. When he was together with Xia Yuyu, although they talked about another realm, Xia Yuyu didn't mention the specific names of the realms. After all, Chun Hao was still too weak. The difference was too great. Yes, the nascent soul realm is the first checkpoint of cultivators. It's restricted by the heavenly Tao's laws. Once one's aura reaches the peak of the nascent soul realm, it will trigger heavenly punishment. Countless cultivators have been destroyed in body and soul at this checkpoint. And I, your uncle, am still not ready. Therefore, I have to seal my strength and comprehend the heavenly Tao's laws. When I said I'm afraid of death, that's it. All right, I know you still have a lot of questions, but you won't understand even if I say more now. You'll naturally understand when you reach the right realm. There's not much time left. I'll control my strength to be slightly higher than Tantai Lian's and fight with you as much as possible. Show me all of your abilities. All right. Thank you, Uncle Huang. Chun Hao said. In fact, Chun Hao did have some questions, but there was no need for Huang Qi to answer them. The myriad great Taos all lead to the same destination. On another level, he had already merged with the cultivators from Earth. With the Taoist canon secrets, Chun Hao basically had no more problems. Huang Qi waved his big sleeve, and the whole cultivation room was enveloped in a layer of powerful restriction. After a moment, the old man and the young man fought fiercely. After a full 2 hours, Huang Qi came out of Chun Hao's cultivation room and returned to the appearance of the gatekeeper uncle. The terrifying aura around him was also sealed. There was a trace of relief on his old face. The next day, early in the morning, the gates of the imperial palace slowly opened under everyone's anticipation. Countless important figures of the empire flocked in with invitations. At the same time, the imperial family, the top families, and the people who weren't present before the group stage also rushed into the martial arts practice field, which symbolized the highest standards and level of the empire. The members of the imperial family, the patriarchs of the top families, important figures, genius disciples, and other people whose cultivations might not be high, but their identities were definitely respected. They had all rushed to the martial arts practice field before the start of the competition. The manager of the Xuanwu auction house, Shuya, was also among them. Sister Shuya, after the competition is over, you must help Xiao Ying invite him, no matter how many pills you have. Sitting beside Shuya was a beautiful little girl who looked to be around 11 or 12 years old. She hugged Shuya's arm and said in a sweet voice, all right, big sister will try her best, but I can't guarantee that he'll agree. Moreover, we have to pray that nothing happens to him in the competition. There definitely won't be any accidents. When the time comes, remember to bring Xiaoing along. If he doesn't agree, I'll just beg him." The little girl's beautiful eyes shone with confidence. "You little girl, you only know how to pester people. If you let your father do it, you might not even need to waste the pills. You just have to make Big Sister do it. If Big Sister does it, it means that the auction house wants it. That won't do. Xiaoing wants to give father a birthday present. If father knows, he won't be surprised. All right, you have a lot of treasures anyway." "Of course," the little girl said proudly. After a slight pause, she looked up at Shuya and said, "Sister Shuya, is he really 15 years old?" "He's only 3 years older than Xiaoing, but his cultivation is so high. He's also a sculptor genius, so powerful. You'll be even more powerful in the future. You're only 12 years old, and you're already a martial emperor. I think Yimingho and Tantai Lien have a higher chance. Yimingho hasn't revealed his true strength yet. Tantai Xian is a 9th stage emperor of will, which is even more terrifying. As for that Chun Hao, he's the most scheming, but the battle with Jian Fenglu should be his limit. He's not very strong, wrong. I think Chun Hao is the most likely. You didn't watch the 8-nation preliminaries, so you probably don't know that Chun Hao has a numinous treasure, right?" "I know. I've heard about it long ago. It's said that it's a circle that contains the energy of the 5 elements. That's nothing, right? Although comprehending the energy of the 5 elements is powerful, a martial emperor can't unleash the power of the 5 elements. Moreover, that numinous treasure is definitely a defensive type, and it's not very powerful. Otherwise, the weaker eunuch Yin wouldn't have forced him to that extent, right?" The disciples of the Empire's new show hall, who had arrived early, were discussing enthusiastically when they entered the martial arts practice field. Who would be able to enter the top 5? There were naturally no doubts about the 3 Grandmaster experts. Therefore, the topic of discussion was basically focused on the 3 strongest competitors, Chen Hao, Yimingho, and Tantai Lien. If nothing unexpected happened, the other 2 spots would be born from the 3 of them. Chen Hao is here. When the group of people from the kingdom of Jinyuan entered the martial arts practice field, Shuya, who was in the VIP seats, whispered to the little girl beside her. Which one is?" The little girl obviously hadn't seen Chen Hao before, and there was a trace of excitement on her little face. Originally, she didn't know about Chen Hao's existence at all. With her age, there was no need for her to pay attention to the rookie list. However, when she heard that someone had carved a lifelike Mu Qing and that person was hired as the chief engraving master of the Xuanwu auction house, she, who was worrying about what gift to give her father on his birthday, suddenly had an idea. She took a piece of high-quality purple crystal jade that was 1 foot in diameter and found her etiquette teacher, Shuya. When she learned that the so-called engraving master was only a youth 3 years older than her, the little girl was surprised. When she learned that he was a member of the rookie list, she was even more surprised. The little girl was a super genius of the Empire's royal family that only appeared once in 100 years. She had advanced to the martial emperor stage at the age of 12. Her cultivation talent was absolutely terrifying. In her father's words, she was a genius that only appeared once in 100 years in the entire Xuanwu Empire. However, after learning about Chun Hao, she was a little suspicious of her father's words. It also made her very curious. "Guess." Shuya smiled slightly. "It's him." The little girl's gaze directly locked onto Chun Hao. P.S. There are 2 more updates tonight. Today's update is still the same. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 145. Third update. 17 votes left. Brothers and sisters, are there any more monthly votes? Vote for Dark Mountain. Not stopping for a moment, Dark Mountain is fighting. There's a 4th update. It will probably be a little after midnight. Those who can't wait can watch it tomorrow. Begging for monthly votes. F*CK. The moment he entered the martial arts practice field, Dongfang Jun cursed out in shock. Even Chun Hao and Dongfang Jian were no exception. They had arrived early enough today, but they did not expect the martial arts practice field to be filled with people. There were close to 10,000 seats in the audience, and they were almost all full. This was a phenomenon that had not happened 2 days ago. Why were there so many people? Moreover, even the VIP seats that had been empty were filled with people. There were very strong existences and very weak existences, but none of them were ordinary people. Chun Hao and the rest instantly became the focus of the martial arts practice field. All eyes were locked onto the dazzling Chun Hao in the crowd. All sorts of discussions could be heard everywhere. Some of the people who had watched the new talent competition consecutively played the role of commentator. 10 minutes later, the forces of the top 10 contestants all arrived one after another. The experts on the rostrum were also in position before the start of the competition. Mu Qing straightforwardly signaled the referee, who was already in position to start the competition. After the discussion of the members of the arbitration team, a new rule has been set for the top 10 ranking competition. If the loser has more points, the winner's points will increase to 3 points higher than the loser's. The order of appearance for the first 5 matches is as follows. First match, Empire New Show Hall's Enai Giant Pain vs. Blue Sky Kingdom's Wen Beiming. Second match, Empire New Show Hall's Yang Fan vs. Empire New Show Hall's Nanmin. Third match, Empire New Show Hall's Li Yifeng vs. Star Luo Kingdom's In Feng'an. Fourth match, Jinyuan Kingdom's Chun Hao vs. Empire New Show Hall's Wei Chun. Fifth match, De Qian Kingdom's Yi Mingho vs. De Sheng Kingdom's Tantai Lian. Voila! Just as the referee finished reporting, the martial arts practice field buzzed and began to discuss. The new rule, without a doubt, put an end to the phenomenon of obtaining qualifications by killing the opponent. Obviously, it was also a set of rules that targeted Chun Hao's situation 2 days ago. As for the order of appearance, the first 3 matches were completely between the top 3 and the bottom 4. In the fourth match, Chun Hao's opponent was the weakest of the 4. Only the fifth match, the battle between Yi Mingho and Tantai Lian, was a true confrontation. It was obvious that the arbitration team's arrangement was to protect the strong and take care of the weak. At the same time, it was to allow the disciples who had hopes of advancing to the top 5 to have an early showdown. There was no doubt that the first round would determine who was stronger between Yi Mingho and Tantai Lian. It didn't seem unfair, but Yi Mingho and Tantai Lian were very unhappy. This arrangement was obviously the most beneficial to Chun Hao, who was their biggest competitor. However, even though they were unhappy, they didn't have the guts to question the arbitration team's decision. Moreover, Chun Hao is the one with the highest score among the 5 teams. Please welcome the first contestants, Enai Giant Pain and Wen Beiming. Ignoring the discussions of the crowd, the referee announced. After hearing the referee's words, everyone's gaze instantly turned to Enai Giant Pain and Wen Beiming's respective areas. Enai Giant Pain didn't immediately go up. Instead, he looked at Wen Beiming solemnly. Wen Beiming hesitated and finally didn't go up the stage. He said in a low voice, "I admit defeat." A second-grade martial ancestor and a super genius of the Empire's New Show Hall. He wasn't someone he could defeat. If he went up, not only would he be humiliated, he might even lose his life. The second and third matches were also within everyone's expectations. The difference in strength was too great, and Nanmin Yi and In Feng'an admitted defeat. The fourth contestant, Chun Hao and Wei Chun, please go up the stage. The referee continued to shout. Whoosh! The Empire's New Show Hall's Black Tortoise Hall's Wei Chun didn't hesitate and flew up the stage. Chun Hao followed closely behind. Although Chun Hao displayed strength that was stronger than Wei Chen's, the difference wasn't too great. It was reasonable that Wei Chen didn't admit defeat. In the top 10 ranking competition, there was a huge difference in the rewards and glory one would receive if they could improve one's ranking. In addition, it was also a chance to show one's face in front of the entire Xuanwu Empire's upper echelons. Even if there was no hope of advancing to the top 5, as long as one had the confidence to survive, anyone would take the risk. Wei Chun go. Wei Chen, go. Senior brother Wei, go. Senior brother Wei, go. The moment Wei Chun went up the stage, cheers erupted from two directions in the martial arts practice field. One was called out by the Wei Chen clan, while the other was called out by the Empire's new Excellence Hall. Chen Hao go. Chen Hao go. Dongfang Jun, Dongfang Jian, Yun Fian, and the other young people in the Jinyuan kingdom who couldn't keep their cool immediately didn't want to be outdone. However, compared to the huge scale of the other party, it was indeed a little shabby. But right at this moment, a young girl's voice that carried a slight immaturity suddenly sounded out from the VIP seats that were high up above. The clear and melodious voice disregarded the existence of all the great figures and actually boldly bulged out the Dantian's origin energy, bringing along an extremely shocking, penetrating force that directly suppressed the shouts of everyone. Big brother Chun Hao, go, go. Voila, it can't be. Dongfang Jun, Yun Fian, and the others were a little dumbfounded. Especially after seeing the beautiful little girl in the VIP seats, Dongfang Jun's eyes widened. Cough, cough. On the rostrum, the Emperor of the Empire, sitting in the middle, suddenly coughed awkwardly. Even he didn't expect that his precious daughter would actually make such a shocking and strange move at this time. What made him even more puzzled was when did Chun Hao get to know his precious daughter, and they seemed to be very familiar with each other. She even called him Big Brother. This was simply unbelievable. How many big brothers did this little girl have? And she called them by their names. Chun Hao also looked in the direction of the little girl with extreme astonishment. The little girl's eyes were bright, and she was staring at him with a playful and cute smile. Beside the little girl, Shuya smiled faintly and stretched out her hand to pull up the little girl, Xining, who stood up. Boom! At this moment, the arena barrier instantly enveloped the entire arena, and Chun Hao withdrew his gaze. Little rascal! Shuya stretched out her hand with a trace of affection and pinched Xian Ying's tender little face as she said, Big sister Shuya, now you have a little more confidence, right? Littling already called him Big Brother. Can he bear to not agree? Shuing made a face and said playfully. At this moment, the voice of the referee for the start of the match sounded out, and the two of them instantly looked towards the arena. Boom! As soon as the referee finished speaking, Wei Chun, who had a solemn expression, suddenly summoned his protective chi, and his fighting spirit madly soared as he directly flashed towards Chun Hao like a bolt of lightning. At the same time, Chun Hao also approached. Wei Chen's strength is slightly better than Jian Fenglio's, so there's a glimmer of hope. Unless this kid is still hiding his strength. Damn it. Arranging for me to fight with Tantai Lien first must be the idea of the Emperor of the Empire. I really didn't expect that this kid actually has a relationship with the Emperor of the Empire. Yimingho stared at the arena as he thought fiercely in his heart. Even he had never thought that Chun Hao could reach this step and even rise to the height where he had the strength to compete with him. At the same time, Tantai Lien also stared at the arena with bright eyes, and she frowned thoughtfully. Chun Hao simply did not expect that just because of the little girl's cheering, Chun Hao's identity was shrouded in mystery. Chun Hao did not know the little girl's identity, but Yimingho and Tantai Lien did. Who did not know that she was known as the peerless genius girl of the Xuanwu Empire that only appeared once in 100 years? Even if they had not seen her before, they could guess from the little girl's appearance, aura, and where she sat her day. Boom, boom, boom. Wei Chen actually attacked all the way. The sword in his hand was wide open, chopping and stabbing continuously. Vigorous Yuan Qi surged out violently. Obviously, he wanted to suppress Chun Hao from the beginning and not give Chun Hao any chance to use his ultimate move. The brilliant sword light was accompanied by crisp sword sounds and rumbling explosions. Wei Chen became more and more courageous as he fought. His protective chi gradually retracted, allowing his skin to shine with a faint metallic luster. At the same time, his sword moves became even more fierce and violent. However, what surprised everyone was that under such fierce attacks, Chun Hao actually seemed to be able to lift the heavy weight easily. His figure was erratic as he wandered around in the fierce and dense sword light. fist, palm, sword. Three completely different ultimate moves were miraculously performed on him at the same time. It gave people the feeling that he was not competing, but enjoying the process of the competition. This was indeed the case. At this stage, Chen Hao did not need to hide anything at all. Sword skills, fist skills, palm skills, and footwork were originally ultimate moves from ancient Chinese martial arts. Chen Hao carefully integrated them into the ultimate moves of this world in every battle, displaying the power to turn something rotten into something magical in an ordinary manner. Until now, all the experts thought that Chen Hao was turning something rotten into something magical and displaying the most appropriate moves at the right time. Little did they know that it was because Chen Hao had integrated the ultimate moves of ancient Chinese martial arts. However, that was ultimately too restrictive for Chen Hao. Now, Chen Hao did not need to worry about what others thought of him. Who would question him about where he had learned all of this? It was the first time that Chen Hao was truly immersed in the beauty of the ultimate moves of the martial arts world when facing a cultivator of the same combat strength. This feeling of satisfaction was definitely not comparable to the time on Earth. At that time, Earth's spiritual energy was scarce and cultivators had died. Even real ancient martial arts experts were extremely rare. Internal force was a rare existence. However, it was different now. Chen Hao had vigorous yuan qi and mental strength, enough to display each of the ultimate moves, just like Xiao Li's flying dagger. Chen Hao believed that even if Xiao Li's flying dagger's mother was reborn, she would not be able to compete with him. This, while Chen Hao was immersed in the profound meaning of the ultimate moves of the martial arts world, the entire martial arts arena, including the experts on the rostrum, were dumbfounded. His footwork was erratic and unrestrained. It seemed that there was not much yuan qi fluctuation at all, but he was able to shuttle freely in the dense sword light. His palm skills, fist skills, and sword skills were integrated into one, and he was always able to easily resolve Wei Chen's violent attacks. What was even more strange was that Chen Hao was able to use the force of the opponent's strength to counterattack, causing Wei Chen, who was getting more and more courageous, to become completely disordered. His face became more and more ugly, and he became more and more flushed. A feeling of powerlessness made him more and more irritable. P.S. I am very grateful to Luo Shi's true love Deng Ting for her generous gifts and monthly votes. Thank you all for your gifts and monthly votes. I will not list your names one by one, but I will remember them in my heart. Every brother and sister who gave me monthly votes, every friend who gave me gifts, I am very grateful. Dark Mountain will continue with the 4th update. It's probably past midnight. I am only 17 votes away from the first place. Can I get any closer? Please give me monthly votes. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to Conceited. Come to give me your recommendation votes and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 146. Heavens, what absolute art is this? Is this possible? How'd he do it? So handsome, too handsome. He is even more handsome than Senior Brotherly, Imperial New Show Hall's disciples, some respected young men and women, some geniuses from large forces, especially the young girls. Their mouths were wide open and their eyes were wide open as they stared at Chen Hao's figure, unable to believe what they were seeing. Chen Hao had turned martial skills into art, the art of battle, the art of killing. His graceful and unrestrained footwork was sometimes light, sometimes violent, sometimes slow, sometimes fast, sometimes soft, and sometimes hard. It was as if he was stepping on musical notes, stepping on a rhythm, and coupled with his handsome and extraordinary figure, it caused the eyes of everyone present to explode. Yang Fan and Li Yifeng stared blankly, and Jian Payne's deep eyes seemed to be a little dumbfounded. Ming Hao frowned. His expression was so unsightly that it was like his father had died. Feng Han's body was trembling, unable to catch his breath. 3 months ago, this guy was clearly on par with him. How did he become so powerful now? This unheard of peerless absolute art. When in the world was it? Similarly, Yunfian Dongfang Jun, Zhao Xing Chun, Feng Yuan and the rest of Jin Yuan Kingdom's people were also shocked. They had never thought that Chun Hao was actually hiding such an unimaginably powerful absolute art. Especially Zhao Xing Chun, Feng Yuan, and the other experts who had seen many things, they were even more shocked. This was simply using strength to the peak of perfection. There was no flaw at all. So handsome, so handsome, so handsome. Sister Shuya, he is so handsome. The little girl Xian Ying's eyes stared at Chun Hao without blinking, her two small hands grabbing Shuya's arm and shaking it vigorously as she spoke nonstop. But Shuya also stared with her eyes wide open, not replying. Heavenly path laws. Huang Qi and the experts on the rostrum who had reached another level stared at Chun Hao's figure for a few minutes. One by one, they said 4 words. Heavenly path laws. Only those who had reached a higher level could comprehend the laws of the heavenly Tao. Only those who had comprehended a trace of the heavenly Tao would be able to use the power of the lower cultivation realm to the pinnacle. All martial skills were like floating clouds in front of him. All power, in his hands, could turn something rotten into something magical. The combination of hardness and gentleness, the ultimate strength and yang, the 4 ounces of force, borrowing force to strike force, turning freely. Chun Hao, who was completely immersed in that wonderful state, felt the energy in his body circulate faster and faster with his movements. It surged like the Yellow River, flowing along his meridians. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, boom. After fighting with Wei Chun for a full 10 minutes, Wei Chun was about to suffocate to death, and his strength was gradually weakening. At this moment, the crazily circulating energy in Chun Hao's body suddenly exploded, completely out of Chun Hao's control. An incomparably vigorous power, azure energy, immediately overflowed from his body in circles, setting off gusts of wind that directly bounced Wei Chun away. What happened next was even more shocking to everyone. Chun Hao's azure energy actually became more and more intense, more and more vigorous at this moment. Breakthrough. A natural breakthrough. Without any urging at all, it broke through on its own. Even Chun Hao himself was dumbfounded, revealing a hint of surprise. How did he break through? Clearly, his energy and mental strength had not been tempered to a sufficiently vigorous stage. I admit defeat. Wei Chun felt the terrifying aura on Chun Hao's body and no longer had the slightest desire to fight. He had almost suffocated to death just now. If he fought now, wouldn't that be asking to be played to death? Yes, it was playing to death. Not dying in battle. There was nothing more stifling than this. Phew! After letting out a long breath, Yang Fan's eyes shone with a radiance that was even sharper than a sword. He took another deep breath and said to Li Yifeng beside him, "He made me excited." "Me too," Li Yifeng said. "Me too." What the two of them did not expect was that Ni Giant Pain, who had been like a dead person from the beginning to the end, suddenly said. Chun Hao stepped on the screams and exclamations of countless girls and floated to his seat. His delicate and handsome face was calm and serious, as if the matter that had attracted everyone's attention had nothing to do with him. He was so cold that it made people's hair stand on end, and so deep that it made people go crazy. What made Huang Qi, Yunfian, and the others feel even more stifled was that after this guy came back, he directly sat cross-legged on his seat and actually closed his eyes to cultivate, completely ignoring the shocked and questioning gazes of the crowd. Seeing that he had entered into a state of cultivation, the crowd's hearts rose and fell. Especially when they thought of Chun Hao's performance after stepping into the Royal New Show Hall, they were even more shocked. Raising eyebrows unsheathed, soaring into the sky. Such a young man from a small county. Just how high could he rise to? Even Huang Qi felt that it was impossible to measure. Please welcome the 5th contestant, the Qian Kingdom's Yi Mingho and the Sheng Kingdom's Tantai Lian. The vigorous and loud voice of the referee interrupted the crowd's astonishment. The 5th match, which was destined to be an intense battle, was finally about to begin. Before Chun Hao made his move, Most people were more inclined towards the hidden Yi Mingho and the ninth-grade emperor Yi Genius Tantai Lien. But after a short 10 minutes, although Chun Hao's opponent was not strong, it still made the crowd's heart start to tilt. In the end, it directly fell towards Chun Hao's side. Almost everyone was sure that Chun Hao would definitely be among the top 5. Moreover, he would definitely be ranked 4th. As for whether he could be ranked higher, that was uncertain. Chun Hao could use his peerless secret technique to play around with Wei Chun, but it seemed impossible to play around with Enai, Giant Pain, and the other two who were much stronger than him. Whoosh whoosh. Yi Mingho's eyes flashed with a trace of cold and hot light as he flew directly towards the arena. At the same time, Tantai Lien's beautiful face also turned slightly serious. At that very moment, not only did the crowd lean towards Chun Hao, but even the two of them had a feeling that whether they could advance to the top 5 and obtain the right to enter the 100 Empire ranking depended on the outcome of this battle. As for Chun Hao, they originally had a 70% chance of winning, but now it was not even 30%. Humph, Tantai Lien, admit defeat. Don't waste my time. I don't know how to be gentle to women. I only know how to destroy them. As soon as he entered the arena, Yi Mingho, who had always been arrogant, had a cold look in his eyes and was full of disdain as he provoked her. Don't waste your breath. If you want to use this method to anger me, you will only lose more miserably. Don't forget, I am the Emperor Yi, Tantai Lien said indifferently. Dressed in a pink robe, her feet didn't touch the ground as she floated in the air. Her fluttering hair, graceful and exquisite figure, and beautiful and refined little face, coupled with her indifferent words, were indeed filled with a charm that would make the hearts of any youth palpitate with eagerness. The battle begins. The referee did not care about the two of them bickering and announced loudly. However, the two of them remained motionless and did not activate any energy. There was only a pure and powerful fighting spirit that continued to soar. Obviously, the two of them knew the importance of this battle, and neither of them dared to act rashly. In a moment, when their fighting spirits soared to the peak, the corner of Yi Mingho's mouth curled into a sinister and strange cold smile. In an instant, the number of Yi Mingho's shadows increased at lightning speed. 1, 2, 3. Every shadow that appeared was close to 200 feet away from Tantai Lien. The distance of over 100 feet was almost instantly covered. As for Yi Mingho's shadow, when he was about 10 feet away from Tantai Lien, all the shadows suddenly disappeared. In an instant, he formed a circle around Tantai Lien. There was a total of 18 shadows. The highest level of the level 13 body motion martial skill, shape-shifting switching, insignificant skill. Clang! The motionless Tantai Lien cried out. In an instant, a treasured sword that emitted a sinister aura appeared in front of her. With a swoosh, the treasured sword immediately turned into a ray of light. Under the control of her terrifying spiritual energy, it was like Chun Hao's flying dagger, but its speed was faster and more shocking. In an instant, it circled around her and attacked the 18 shadows almost at the same time. Ding! Rumble! The 18 shadows that terrified countless people were actually easily destroyed by Tantai Lien. She directly fought with Yi Mingho's real body. Lock! At the same time, Tantai Lien's glabella released a 5-colored invisible spiritual tentacle and instantly wrapped around Yi Mingho's real body. Ha! As expected of a level 9 intent emperor. Very good. This crown prince will let you experience my true power. Break for me. Yi Mingho laughed loudly. The sword in his hand suddenly flashed. With a rumble, a terrifying distortion appeared in the space between him and Tantai Lien. Not only did he break Tantai Lien's spiritual energy lock in one move, but at the same time, an extremely sharp aura without any color blended into the air and charged toward Tantai Lien. Spatial energy? Tantai Lien's eyes narrowed. Then, a bright light flashed in her eyes. She pinched her fingers together and formed a sword. Boundless spiritual energy immediately activated her treasured sword and charged toward Mingho's attack. Spatial energy. This kid actually comprehended spatial energy? No wonder this kid is so arrogant, calling himself this crown prince. How big is this kingdom? Amazing. This talent is too abnormal. That's right. Only martial gods can comprehend spatial energy. I'm afraid Tantai Lien is in danger. That's hard to say. Didn't you see that Tantai Lien is not afraid at all? Moreover, he can't display the true power of spatial energy. He doesn't seem to be that powerful. Just as the crowd began to discuss, Chen Hao had already opened his eyes. His bright eyes stared at the two people who were engaged in an intense battle. This Mingho is indeed very strong. Fortunately, Tantai Lien is a level 9 and 10 emperor and has senses that ordinary people don't have. Kid, if you encounter Mingho, you can't let her guard down. Did you see that? He used spatial energy to instantly set up traps in all directions of the arena, waiting for Tantai Lien to detonate them. This Tantai Lien is quite smart. P.S. I've finally finished the 4th update. Brothers and sisters, do you still have monthly votes? To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 148. First update. When I woke up this morning, I impatiently looked at the monthly votes. I simply didn't expect that the difference of 13 votes would become close to 30 votes. Dark Mountain couldn't bear to squeeze their brothers and sisters dry. Dark Mountain could clearly see that many brothers and sisters had cast 5 votes and even changed accounts to vote again with large amounts of rewards. Enough. What else is there for Dark Mountain to be dissatisfied with? If you want to blame someone, you can only blame our proud heavens for having too few readers. Dark Mountain will continue to fight. Thank you, everyone. The powerful spirit formation that enveloped the stage was only a layer of protection against the overflowing energy within the stage. It did not affect the crowd's perception of the battle within the stage. With Chun Hao's keen perception, even without Huang Qi's words, he had already sensed the terror of Mingho's spatial energy. Under the control of Mingho's powerful origin energy, the origin energy sword lights, which had their auras sealed by spatial energy, spread out like ticking time bombs in the area that Tantai Lien could move to. They were not waiting for Tantai Lien to detonate, as Huang Qi had said. Instead, Mingho could control, move, and detonate them at any time. As long as Tantai Lien approached any of them, Mingho would immediately detonate them. What was certain was that if Mingho's opponent was not Tantai Lien, who had extremely strong spirit perception, but a rank 9 martial emperor, he would have likely been killed by Mingho. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Tendrils formed by Tantai Lien's spirit power extended in all directions. Coldness and anger flickered on her exceptionally beautiful little face. She was simply unable to concentrate all of her spirit power to fight against Mingho. Ding, ding, boom, boom. On the stage, Tantai Lien was several tens of meters away from Mingho. She was controlling her treasured sword from afar. The space between her eyebrows was shining brightly. Her slender, jade-like hands were constantly changing shapes and forming sword seals as she fought against Mingho. The scene was as if Mingho was fighting against an unmanned treasured sword. The entire arena was reeked in sword light, and the wind was surging. Even a hard ground made of special materials had traces of sword marks. Ha ha ha! What can you do to me with just this bit of power? Break! Mingho laughed wildly. With a boom, his body was like a cannonball. His speed suddenly increased by several times. As he swung his sword, it seemed as if it could cut through the void. A terrifying spatial fluctuation was forcibly cut open between Tantai Lien and her treasured sword. Mingho opened his 5 fingers and grabbed Tantai Lien's sword. In your dreams. Boom, boom, boom. At this critical moment, Tantai Xian suddenly activated her terrifying mental power and condensed layers of protective aura around her body. With a hiss, she turned into a stream of light. She didn't care about the bomb left by Mingho anymore and dashed away. In an instant, extremely terrifying explosion sounds continuously exploded as Tantai Lien flew. Even Mingho did not expect Tantai Lien to be so strong that she could directly take on the traps he left behind. It must be known that these traps were all under his control and were connected to his mind. Therefore, as he was caught off guard, his mind was instantly greatly shaken. The hand that was grabbing Tantai Lien's sword immediately froze. With a pu sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Evidently, his mind was injured. Die! Tantai Lien roared. Blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth, and her face was slightly pale. Tantai Lien, who had clearly suffered heavy injuries from the head-on clash, fiercely snatched her sword and activated all her spiritual energy. At close range, she slashed her sword at Mingho. There weren't any exquisite moves. There was only a violent, overbearing, and destructive aura. Mingho's face instantly turned ashen. He did not expect that a moment of carelessness would actually allow Tantai Lien to force him to such a state. He was completely infuriated and no longer thought of using tricks to win. With a wild roar, he instantly cut off all his divided mind. The origin energy around his body was activated violently as he brandished his sword to meet the attack. Clang! Rumble! A deafening sound of metal clashing accompanied by a terrifying explosion spread out from the stage. At the same time, there was a raging and terrifying energy fluctuation that caused the entire protective barrier to violently distort and churn. What powerful strength! Below the stage, countless disciples widened their eyes in shock. Even though they already knew that the two of them were powerful, they did not expect them to be so powerful. Without a doubt, this was the most terrifying collision of peak energy since the start of the rookie rankings. There had never been a battle that could cause the barrier to vibrate so violently. Other than the experts from the three great sects and Chun Hao, Yin Fenghan, and the other top 10 disciples' faces were twitching in shock, especially when Beiming, Nanmin Yi, and Wei Chun, who had fought with Mingho and Tantai Lien to see if they could win by luck. At this moment, their hearts were filled with fear, and they immediately erased this thought. Such strength was not something they could resist. Tantai Xian and Mingho, who were in the arena, both tumbled and flew out. Only when they collided with the barrier did they land on the arena at the same time. Their clothes were riddled with holes, and their bodies were covered in blood. They struggled to stand up, but just as they stood up, they fell down again. They couldn't even get close to each other, let alone kill each other. The distance of several hundred feet was originally covered in an instant, but at this moment, it had become a chasm between the two of them that neither of them could cross. Both sides have suffered heavy injuries. This match is a draw. Each side gets 1 point. 10 breaths later, the referee announced the result of the match. At the same time, the protective barrier on the stage quickly disappeared. The people from the Great Qian Kingdom and the Great Victory Kingdom instantly ascended the stage and brought the two back. 5 matches have ended. 3 of the matches have been admitted. 6 contestants have not fought and need to be regrouped to continue the competition. The arbitration team has decided that the 6th match, Ni Giant Pain against Nanmeni. The 7th match, Yang Fan against Yin Fenghan. The 8th match, Li Yifeng against Wen Beiming. The 6th match, please enter the stage. In the top 10 competition, each person would fight 1 match per day. The matches referred to were real battles. If one admitted defeat, it meant that there was no exhaustion and they still needed to be regrouped. Unless a contestant had finished fighting with the other 9 contestants, then it was not included. After the referee announced the 6th, 7th, and 8th matches, Nanmin, Yin Fenghan, and when Beiming still chose to admit defeat. After switching opponents again, the 9th, 10th, and 11th matches, the 3 of them still admitted defeat. Ni Giant Pain, Yang Fan, and Li Yifeng each obtained 9 points without fighting. Nanmin Yi, Han, and Wen Beiming each admitted defeat 3 times in a row. The 12th match, Wen Beiming against Han. The 13th match, Jianping against Li Yifeng. The 12th match, please enter the stage. The referee's voice sounded again. Wen Beiming was the strongest of the 3 weaklings who had not fought, while Han was the weakest. Similarly, Jianping was also the strongest of the 3. Li Yifeng was on par with Yang Fan, but his overall evaluation was clearly inferior to Yang Fan, so he was allowed to face Jianping first. And whether Yang Fan and Nan Min would have a chance to fight depended on whether anyone admitted defeat in these 2 matches. If they did not admit defeat, they would not have a chance to fight. Victory and defeat had been decided between the 2 of them, while the other 8 had already fought. Wen Beiming and Han did not hesitate this time. The strong were not that much stronger, and the weak were not necessarily weak. They would definitely take a gamble. Soon, the 2 of them fought. The difference in strength was not too great, so it was quite exciting. However, the audience's enthusiasm was not very high. They even wished that these 2 fellows could finish quickly, so that Jianping and Li Yifeng's true peak battle could begin as soon as possible. But Wen Beiming and the damned eunuch Han were entangled in a melancholy battle. Neither of them used their ultimate moves, fighting to the death. They were both careful and cautious, especially the slightly weaker damned eunuch Han. His defense was watertight, and if there was any movement, he would quickly bounce away. It was completely a defensive tactic. He wanted to exhaust the opponent until he could no longer hold back, and then strike the desired result. This made the audience even more depressed and pained the more they watched. Finally, Dongfang Jun, this fiery fellow, was the first to curse. Following that, it gradually spread to the entire martial arts practice field, erupting with curses of damned eunuch, coward. The people of the Star Luo Kingdom were all filled with anger, but they were unable to stop it. After all, even among them, there were many who felt that Han was too embarrassing. To be able to charge into the top 10 was indeed the kingdom's pride, but F***K. How could he be a yin-yang person with a rooster's voice? You're already like that. Can't you act like a man? After a full 10 minutes, the tortoise's strength was still lacking. Wen Beiming seized the opportunity and heavily injured him with 1 strike. Li Yifeng. Before the referee announced the victory, terrifying shouts erupted from below the stage. With the Empire's new show hall as the core, there were also the areas of Li Yifeng's family, as well as countless voices from different areas, erupting one after another. The sharpness, the loudness, and the craziness attracted everyone's attention. Clearly, the first expert was Jianping, but it was completely overshadowed by Li Yifeng's shouts. A young girl yearning for love was unreasonable when she went crazy. At the same time, it clearly told everyone that Li Yifeng had extremely good relations with people in the Xuanwu Empire's new show hall, as well as the Empire's top forces and families, especially with women. The highly anticipated showdown between the strong had finally begun, and Jianping, who was as calm as a mountain, didn't feel the slightest bit of emotion towards the crowd's cheers for Li Yifeng. He only glanced at Li Yifeng beside him, and with a whoosh, he turned into a stream of light and flew onto the stage. Li Yifeng took a deep breath. His figure flashed, and he also flew onto the stage. At the same time, Chen Hao also took a deep breath. His eyes shone with a resplendent radiance. His abnormal perception instantly spread and scrupulously towards the stage. Chen Hao was incomparably looking forward to the showdown between super geniuses and Wu Zongs. This was going to be his opponent. He wanted to see how much stronger these two were compared to the level 7 Wu Zong demonic beasts. After watching the battle between Yi Mingho and Tantai Lien, Chen Hao had already confirmed that there was no problem in obtaining the qualifications to enter the 100 Empire ranking. He had already achieved his first goal, but the sword had already been unsheathed. Chen Hao, had no reason to take it back. If he wanted to do it, he would do his best and do his best. He would charge as high as he could. Clang, clang. Two crisp sounds of swords being unsheathed rang out at the same time as the referee's voice. Boom, boom. Immediately after, Giant Pain and Li Yifeng, who were separated by more than 1,000 feet, remained motionless. However, the air within a radius of several hundred feet around them was compressed to the point of exploding. Especially the air between the two, it was like the collision of elemental energy, surging violently towards each other. So damn strong, Dong Fangjun muttered. The two of them had yet to make a move, but the aura of Wu Zong experts had instantly intimidated all the young disciples. P.S. Wushan will continue to edit the second part. I am very grateful to Brother Luo, Xi's beloved Deng Ting, for their 20,000 coins worth of monthly votes. Brother Weasel 22 for his 10,000 coins worth of monthly votes. Chen Yu and the other brothers and sisters for their monthly votes. Friends who still have monthly votes, please support Wushan. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 149. Second update. Dark Mountain continues to write the third update. Those with monthly tickets, please support Dark Mountain. Thank you. Many thanks to the brothers and sisters who gave you red packets, monthly tickets, and book reviews. Thank you for your blessings. I have nothing to repay you with. I can only repay you with my body. I will write with my body and let my brothers and sisters watch happily. Boom, boom. The extremely condensed light purple protective aura that symbolized martial ancestor realm experts appeared on both of them at the same time. What was different from the Emperor realm experts was that their protective aura seemed to be between reality and illusion. It was like a solid protective armor. In a short moment, it became more and more condensed, more and more condensed. Chi-Chi. The two had fought many times in the Empire's new show hall seemed to have the same rhythm. Once again, they took a step forward at the same time, rushing towards each other. The swords in their hands directly tore through the air like two scorching suns, stabbing towards each other. There was no sign of sword chi wreaking havoc. It seemed that everyone knew that purely relying on sword chi attacks would not be able to do anything to each other. Therefore, from the beginning, they had fallen into a head-on, close combat. Ding, ding, ding. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the two figures met in the air, there was a dense and terrifying explosion of metal clashing and energy colliding. In the blink of an eye, there were hundreds and thousands of explosions. Their attacks were so fast that most people could only see the shadow of the sword. They could not see how many swords had been thrown out. However, the barrier that enveloped the entire arena seemed to have been stabbed by countless swords. In an instant, countless bulges appeared, one after another, endlessly rising and falling. Clang! After a violent head-on collision, the two figures separated in the air and fell to the ground. Li Yifeng staggered back a few steps. Every step left a deep footprint on hard ground. After retreating a full 10 steps, he finally stabilized his body. There was already a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. As for Giant Pain, who had been sent flying, he stabilized his body within 5 steps. However, his expression was also not relaxed. He forcibly suppressed his surging blood. I'll wait for you to catch up to my realm. After the two looked at each other for a few seconds, Giant Pain slowly put away his sword and said calmly. Very soon, Li Yifeng smiled slightly and wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. His eyes flashed with determination as he said. At the same time, he also put away his sword. That's it. Dongfang Jun's eyes widened as he said in surprise. Many disciples in the martial arts practice field were the same as Dongfang Jun. They still didn't understand what was going on. When experts exchange blows, especially opponents who are familiar with each other, victory or defeat can be decided in one move. 981 sword strikes in an instant. That Li Yifeng can actually keep up. For now, Li Yifeng has lost in terms of cultivation level. What surprised Dongfang Jun Yunfian, and even Huang Qi was that Chun Hao actually narrowed his eyes. His voice contained a powerful battle intent as he spoke slowly. What was even more shocking was that he even reported the exact number of strikes. Even an expert like Huang Qi wouldn't be able to do that. They had seen every strike clearly, but who would count how many strikes the other party had made? At best, it was a rough estimate. However, Chun Hao was able to pinpoint the exact position. The next day, the arbitration committee was even more direct in arranging the opponents. They didn't arrange a few matches at once, but arranged them one by one to screen them out. The first match, Chun Hao against Yin Fenghan. This damned eunuch chose to admit defeat without the slightest hesitation. Even though he wished to pinch Chun Hao to death, he did not hesitate. There was nothing he could do about it. With Chun Hao's current strength, if he were to go up against him, he was certain that with Chun Hao's temperament, he would definitely kill him without the slightest hesitation. Furthermore, he would not be able to resist. After Yin Fenghan admitted defeat, the judges arranged Nan Min, Yi, and Wen Beiming for Chun Hao. The two of them also chose to admit defeat. When he was only a rank 7 martial emperor, he was able to defeat Wei Chun. Furthermore, he had advanced to rank 8 martial emperor on the spot. Who would dare to fight against him? After that, it was Yi Mingho's turn. After that, it was Tantai Lian's turn. The results were the same. Yin Fenghan and the other 3 martial emperors who had never fought against the two of them also chose to admit defeat. After that, the judges arranged for Wei Chun, who had fought against Chun Hao the day before, to face the 3 martial ancestor realm cultivators. Naturally, all of them also chose to admit defeat. This arrangement caused the 4 martial emperors with low cultivations to be placed in the 3rd tier. However, the following arrangement caused the crowd to be shocked to discover that Chun Hao was not placed in the 2nd tier. Instead, he had been placed in the 1st tier along with the 3 martial ancestor realm cultivators. The reason for that was because Yi Mingho and Tantai Lian were first arranged to face An Giant Pang. The two of them admitted defeat. Then, they faced Yang Fan and Li Yifeng. The two of them admitted defeat again. Instead, they did not arrange for the 3 of them to face Chun Hao. Evidently, to the judges, Chun Hao's strength had definitely reached the level where he could contend against the 3 martial ancestor realm cultivators. Thus, it was very likely that he would have to fight against them. That was the reason why they had to do this sort of selection. Finally, after the expected elimination of matches, the first match was Chun Hao against Tantai Lian. This was the match that they had anticipated to be a true battle. Following the appearance of Chun Hao and Tantai Lian, the martial arts practice field, which had been silent for half a day, was instantly filled with excitement. Everyone wanted to witness Chun Hao's supreme skill that allowed martial techniques to evolve into art. Everyone wanted to know if Chun Hao could still defeat Tantai Lian, who was much more powerful than Wei Chun. However, to everyone's slight disappointment, Chun Hao still performed the supreme ultimate technique this time. However, it seemed that Tantai Lian's spiritual energy was too strong, so he couldn't play around at all. He was even forced into a dangerous situation. The battle lasted for a full 5 minutes. The result was the same as yesterday's battle between Yi Mingho and Tantai Lian. Both of them were severely injured. It was a draw. This result made Tantai Lian, who only had a 30% chance of winning, very satisfied. However, she was also a little surprised. Even though Chun Hao's injuries were very real and he really seemed to have exhausted all his energy, she still felt strange. She was almost certain that Chun Hao had not used his full strength. Could it be that he intentionally let me win? Why? Could it be that Tantai Lian, who was lying on the ground, stared at Chun Hao, who was also lying on the ground? She did not care about her injuries as she pondered. Her pale face actually shone with a tinge of red. That must be it. He could obviously defeat me, but he intentionally tied with me. When he defeats Yi Mingho, I will be 5th and successfully qualify for the 100 Empire ranking. When Chun Hao and Tantai Lian were carried away by their respective people, Tantai Lian was still staring at Chun Hao in a daze. Huang Qi and the experts on the rostrum all frowned. According to their estimates, Chun Hao should have at least a 60% chance of winning. Why was it a draw? Could it be that Tantai Lian's mental strength was too strong and exceeded Chun Hao's range of control? Even though Chun Hao indeed looked like he was heavily injured, Chun Hao had a criminal record. More or less, it made everyone feel that it was a little strange. And Dongfang Jun, who clearly knew how much enmity Chun Hao had with Mingho, saw that after Chun Hao returned and started to heal his injuries, this fellow's eyes darted around. It was obvious that he was very agitated. Others could not be sure, but Dongfang Jun's intuition told him that Chun Hao had done it intentionally. Even though the price he paid was a little high, dealing a blow to that idiot Mingho was really satisfying. It was simply too satisfying. Dongfang Jun really wanted to laugh wildly at Mingho right now, scold him in disdain, and ridicule him. However, he had to give some face to Chun Hao. Otherwise, with Chun Hao's good intentions, it would not be too obvious, right? F***CK. Mingho was so angry that his face turned green. He gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. Veins popped out on his face as his fighting spirit soared. His fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. He was not an idiot. Naturally, he could guess that Chun Hao might have done it intentionally. How could he not be angry? A raging fury was burning in his body, burning so much that he almost exploded right now. No one could stop my footsteps. No one. So what if I have a 40% chance of winning? Without Tantai Lian's sharp senses, my spatial energy will be able to unleash its greatest power. Oof. I will want you to die. Want you to die. Mingho's eyes were almost spewing fire. He stared at Chun Hao's figure and roared in his heart. The next two matches were Fenghan's group of four. Beiming won against Wei Chun, and Nanmin won against Fenghan. Immediately, the last peak battle of the day began again. Yang Fan against Li Yifeng. But the two fellows did not immediately go up the stage. Instead, they were arguing in a low voice. A draw? Yang Fan said. No, I want to fight with you fair and square. 50,000. No, we must fight. 100,000. 100,000. All right, I'll immediately cash it out. Mother asterisk her. Seeing Li Yifeng stretch out his hand, Yang Fan actually cursed gloomily. 100,000 pills to buy you not to bleed. F***CK. I'm bleeding. Do you think you can escape unscathed? Cut the crap, give it to me, or we fight. Otherwise, I'll go back on my word. 100,000 pills, won't you win against me? Here, Yang Fan directly threw a storage ring to Li Yifeng. Two contestants. At this time, the impatient judge shouted again. We often fight, and our strength is on par. Although I'm slightly better, I can't win. Although he's slightly worse, he can't lose. Judge, declare us a draw. Li Yifeng looked at the pills and said loudly in the direction of the stage proudly after confirming that there was no problem with the pills. Giant Pain secretly glanced to the two of them. His eyes flashed with a completely incomprehensible emotion. Intuition told him that Yang Fan was stronger and more terrifying. But Yang Fan was willing to pay 100,000 pills to buy a draw with Li Yifeng. This made Giant Pain completely unable to understand. This was out of the judge's expectations. He originally expected this to be the last match of the day, but the two of them declared a draw without fighting. This meant that Giant Pain and Yang Fan could fight, because only the three of them and Mingho had not fought yet. Mingho had already admitted defeat to the three of them. And Giant Pain and Li Yifeng had already fought yesterday. Only Giant Pain and Yang Fan were left. Giant Pain, Yang Fan, you two can start. When the judge looked at the rostrum, Mu Qing frowned and directly announced. Hearing Mu Qing's words, Giant Pain looked at Yang Fan. Yang Fan and Giant Pain looked at each other and nodded lightly. With a whoosh, they rushed to the stage. Mother asterisk her. Li Yifeng cursed Yang Fan gloomily. Yang Fan, if you have the ability, defeat Giant Pain. Otherwise, I'll fight you to the death tonight. Second update. Begging for monthly votes, recommendation votes. New month for results. I can only beg with all my might. Please. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to Conceited. Come to vote for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 150. Third update. Begging for monthly votes, recommendation votes. Thank you, old teacher, for your 10,000 coins. Thank you, friends, for your blessings. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. After seeing Yang Fan flying into the ring, Giant Pain took a deep breath as a ferocious battle intent rose within his body. He then took a step forward and appeared on the ring, leaving behind a blurry shadow. Yang Fan had always been low-key. In the Empire's new show hall, being able to obtain the position of White Tiger Hall's chief disciple was only to obtain the corresponding benefits. In the 5 Great Hall's chief disciple ranking competition, he did not use his sword. The kind of battle where he was restricted by the rules was not suitable for his sword. When his sword was unsheathed, it would be stained with blood. 1 strike, 1 kill. Li Yifeng was his best brother. How could he use his true strength? But Giant Pain was not. He did not have any relationship with Giant Pain. If this was the Empire's new show hall's competition, he would definitely admit defeat, because he could not hold back. But now, there were no rules or restrictions, and Giant Pain's strength made him excited. Staring at Giant Pain, whose battle intent rose madly. The battle intent hidden in Yang Fan's bones made him more and more excited. But strangely, the more excited he was, the more restrained his aura became, and the more ordinary he became, just like his ordinary face. If the people present did not know that Yang Fan was a martial ancestor expert, no one would think that he was an expert. On the contrary, Giant Pain, who had never truly fought with Yang Fan, was very clear on how terrifying Yang Fan was. Firstly, Yang Fan had displayed that terrifying sword 2 days ago. Secondly, the 2 days of close contact made him understand that Li Yifeng was not Yang Fan's opponent. And when Li Yifeng fought with him, he only lost because of the difference in realm. There was pressure, but there was more excitement. The excitement that came from his bones made his blood boil. The aura on his body also rose madly below the arena. Looking at Giant Pain, who was trembling with excitement, but whose aura was still as heavy as a mountain. And the more he looked, the more restrained and ordinary Yang Fan. Li Yifeng held his breath. His heartbeat sped up. Even had not seen Yang Fan's true attack. He had not even carefully looked at Yang Fan's sword. Could he defeat Giant Pain? Li Yifeng was unable to be certain. However, he was certain that Yang Fan's current appearance was the most serious. Chun Hao, who was in the middle of healing, also stopped healing. His eyes were wide open, shining with bright light, and he also held his breath. The entire training field seemed to have been infected by Giant Pain and Yang Fan's strange aura. It was so quiet that only the thumping of their hearts could be heard. Begin. After both of them had entered the zone, the referee's loud and dignified voice suddenly rang out. Whoosh. Huff. Woo. The moment the referee's voice fell, Yang Fan, who had already restrained his aura to the extreme, suddenly disappeared at an incredible speed. In an instant, it was as if he had turned into a gust of wind. But then, a gust of wind began to blow in the entire arena. The whistling sound was like a storm blowing through the valley, circling in the boundary of the arena. Giant Pain's eyes suddenly shrank, and with a boom, he pushed his protective aura chi to the limit. His heartbeat quickened, and he was shocked. He had been prepared to receive Yang Fan's berserk sword, but he did not expect that Yang Fan would choose not to fight head-on from the start. What shocked him even more was that he could not lock on Yang Fan's aura at this moment. Amazing, Chun Hao said in extreme shock. Chun Hao could clearly feel that Yang Fan's speed was not necessarily faster than Mingho's, who had comprehended spatial energy. However, Yang Fan's aura was completely restrained, as if he had merged with the air, truly turning into the wind. Even with his powerful soul perception, it was difficult for him to lock onto Yang Fan's aura. The true essence of wind. Huang Qi said in surprise, this Yang Fan is actually close to comprehending the true essence of wind. Amazing. What does the true essence mean? Is it different from comprehending wind energy? Hearing Huang Qi's words, Chun Hao immediately asked in surprise. Huang Qi shook his head and said, what's so surprising about comprehending wind energy? The true essence of wind energy is the same as the true essence of strength that you comprehended. It's a heavenly law. If you can use the strength of a martial artist to the extreme and display combat strength that surpasses your realm, then you've comprehended the true essence of a martial artist's strength. It's a type of heavenly law. Yang Fan is close to comprehending the true essence of wind energy. This is also a type of heavenly law that belongs to wind. When he truly comprehended it, he would be the wind, and the wind would be him. Unless one's realm surpasses his and reaches the martial saint realm, it's impossible to capture his aura. Although this Yang Fan has not truly comprehended it, he has cultivated an ultimate technique that can restrain his aura. This allows him to act as if he has comprehended the true essence of wind energy in this gale, especially when he's fighting against an opponent of the same realm. This giant pain is probably going to lose. Clang! Rumble! As soon as Huang Qi finished speaking, there was a terrifying sound of metal clashing in the arena. Then, there was a sudden explosion. Giant Pain's figure was sent flying for dozens of feet before he stabilized and landed on the ground. His face was full of solemnity. All the hair on his body stood on end and cold sweat flowed down his body. Crash, this single exchange had caused an uproar in the entire martial arts arena. No one had thought that the #1 expert in Giant Pain would be forced into such a sorry state by Yang Fan. What was even more surprising was that everyone had only seen a flash of sword light. They had not even been able to capture Yang Fan's figure. It can't be. Yang Fan is actually so terrifying. Heavens, and Giant Pain is the #1 expert. Mother. Li Yifeng's expression was extremely strange. He was both excited and gloomy. However, one thing was certain. Li Yifeng was not gloomy because Yang Fan had refused to fight him. Instead, he was gloomy because Yang Fan had concealed so much from him. That sword strike was soundless and incomparably bizarre. Giant Pain had hurriedly received it. However, Li Yifeng could sense that if it had been him, it would have been difficult for him to receive it. Giant Pain had also received it by luck. If it had not been for his sharp intuition that had sensed great danger and blocked it in the shortest time possible, he would have been severely injured by Yang Fan's sword. Yes, he would be severely injured, not dead. This was because Yang Fan had locked onto a spot slightly above his back. Obviously, Yang Fan had no intention of killing him. However, even if he did not die, he would only be left with a single breath. Boom, boom, boom. Giant Pain quickly calmed down. The Yuan power around his body instantly surged out and actually formed 3 layers of protective qi in a radius of 30 feet around him. This was definitely extremely exhausting for Yuan power, but at this moment, he had no choice but to do so. This was because he could not capture Yang Fan's aura at all, following which, Giant Pain placed his sword in front of him to protect himself. You've lost. At this moment, the gale suddenly stopped. Yang Fan's figure slowly appeared 10 feet away from Giant Pain as he spoke indifferently. Giant Pain was slightly taken aback. With a trace of doubt, he immediately understood. He slowly withdrew the sword in front of him and said, I've lost. Yes, he had lost. 3 layers of protective qi was enough to give him ample time to react. However, how long could he last? On the other hand, Yang Fan, who had retracted his aura as if he had merged into the wind, did not consume any energy at all. He was completely waiting for an opportunity to strike. You're very strong. I can't defeat you in a head-on battle. Yang Fan said frankly, a loss is a loss. There's no need to give me a way out. I'll challenge you. Giant Pain quickly regained his confidence and said in a firm tone, "You're welcome anytime." Yang Fan smiled and floated down the arena. The outcome was unexpected. At this moment, Yang Fan's ordinary face suddenly became lofty in everyone's eyes. No one had thought that Yang Fan would be able to defeat Giant Pain. However, he had won so easily. Late at night, the starry sky was resplendent and a cool breeze blew gently. Chun Hao, who possessed the so-called undying bloodline, had intentionally suffered heavy injuries and had already recovered completely. He had indeed intentionally tied with Tantai Lien. It was not because of Tantai Lien's appearance. It was just that Tantai Lien was lucky to become a tool for Chun Hao to defeat Mingho. Just as Chun Hao had said, he normally did not bear grudges. In such a bloody competition, no matter who killed who, it was a matter of course. This was the law of the entire empire. Hatred was hatred, but no one dared to use this matter to take revenge. However, the conflict between Mingho and Fenghan with Chun Hao and Dongfang Jun deepened. Fenghan, that damned eunuch, had already missed the opportunity. Chun Hao did not want to let go of Mingho, who he loathed even more. Therefore, he could not display too much strength in his battle with Tantai Lien. Otherwise, Mingho would definitely choose to admit defeat. Then, he would really have no chance. And to tie with Tantai Lien was undoubtedly the best choice. Firstly, he did not display too much strength. Secondly, this would allow Tantai Lien to obtain 1 point. If Mingho wanted to enter the top 5 and obtain the right to enter the 100 Empire ranking, he could only fight with him. Otherwise, he would not have any chance. As long as he dared to stand, Chun Hao could kill him. That bullshit spatial energy was of no threat to him. But Yang Fan's true essence of the wind attribute made Chun Hao feel a real threat. At this moment, Chun Hao was already on the roof of his residence. He quietly sat cross-legged for a full 2 hours. His mind and body were clear as he sensed the gentle breeze that surrounded his body. The 5 elements are extremely derived attributes. They all have their own true essence. To comprehend them, one can only comprehend them quietly and carefully. Not only does it require comprehension, it also requires a certain level of talent and opportunity. Some people will not be able to comprehend them in their entire lives, while others can instantly comprehend them. Even I have not comprehended the true essence of any attribute. Otherwise, I would not need to seal my own strength. After returning, Chun Hao asked Huang Qi about it, and Huang Qi said it was for him. Talent, opportunity, enlightenment. Wind, shadowless, formless. Chun Hao carefully comprehended, his mind grasping the aura of the wind between heaven and earth. At the same time, the wind attribute energy within the 5 element spiritual roots slowly circled around his body, as if it had captured something, but also as if it had not comprehended anything. Time passed second by second. Chun Hao sat motionlessly under the night sky, comprehending. Are there any more monthly votes or recommendation votes? Please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 151. First update, looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. My new book needs everyone's support. The monthly votes ranking is the key to improving the results. The results are measured by the number of readers who subscribe to the original version. Therefore, I implore those who have the ability to subscribe to the original version. This is the basis of the website's recommendation. Dark Mountain's 1 month of hard work only cost a few dollars, not even enough to buy a pack of cigarettes. Dark Mountain believes that those who can afford to go online should not lack that few dollars. Most people are afraid of trouble, not because they can't afford it. But your subscription is the driving force behind Dark Mountain's writing. If you like Proud Heaven, please support Dark Mountain. Thank you. The night quietly passed, and the east began to light up. The laws of the heavenly Tao, the true essence of attributes, looks like it's not that easy to comprehend. Chun Hao slowly opened his eyes and shook his head as he muttered to himself, merging with nature, merging with all things in the world, sensing the aura and trajectory of life. So I've only reached the most superficial level. All things have life, but there's a difference between normal and abnormal. Wind is formless, shadowless, impermanent. Wanting to comprehend the true essence is indeed not an easy task. Jumping down from the roof, Chun Hao knew that it was almost time to leave. He did not want to attract too much attention, so he directly entered his room. After an entire night, it could be said that he had gained something, but it could also be said that he had not gained anything. That kind of feeling that he had faintly grasped, but was unable to grasp, seemed to be waiting for an opportunity to comprehend. Just like what Huang Chi had said, what was needed was not only talent and comprehension, but also opportunity. It cannot be forced. A new day had begun once again. The first two matches were the battles of Yin Feng Han, Wen Beiming, and the other three who were at the bottom. Although there was nothing to look forward to, it still showed everyone that the disciples who were able to enter the top 10 were, after all, the top geniuses of the empire. Their battle talent was indeed high, and could not be compared to normal geniuses. Jinyuan Kingdom's Chun Hao, the Qin Kingdom's Mingho, please enter the stage. Voila, as the referee's voice rang out, the somewhat dull martial arts practice field immediately boiled up, and discussions began. The main topic was whether Chun Hao had deliberately fought to a draw with Tantai. Most people were inclined to believe that Chun Hao had done it on purpose. In the Xuanwu auction house, the conflict between Chun Hao and Mingho was known to everyone who had qualified for the rookie competition. Secondly, most people were more inclined to believe that Chun Hao was interested in the beautiful Tantai. Of course, there were also many who felt that Chun Hao's true strength was at this level. Otherwise, who would be willing to suffer such heavy injuries? Moreover, it was in the most important competition of the Xuanwu Empire, and in front of all the important characters. As for what the truth was, it would soon be revealed. Mingho glanced coldly at Chun Hao, his face still filled with extreme arrogance and disdain. With a flash, he flew towards the arena. Chun Hao, who always had a calm expression, smirked, revealing a devilish aura. At the same time, he flew into the ring. Tantai matches had all ended, and her fate had already been determined. If Chun Hao won, she and Chun Hao would both advance. If Chun Hao lost, she and Mingho would advance. Although Chun Hao still had 3 matches that had yet to begin, his opponents were Ni Jianping, Yang Fan, and Li Yifeng. He was almost certain to lose. Of course, the premise was that his battle with her was real. If it was a draw, the 3 of them would have the same points, and they would probably have to fight again to determine it. However, the probability of this happening was very small because Tantai knew that Chun Hao and Mingho had a grudge against each other. This battle was destined to be crazy, and it might even be a battle of life and death. Taking a deep breath, Tantai beautiful eyes flickered with an indescribable emotion. She looked at Chun Hao, who was on the arena. This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Mingho stared at Chun Hao and said gloomily. At the same time, his aura suddenly soared. What else do you have to say? Hurry up and say it. You won't have a chance in the future. Chun Hao's expression was calm, with a trace of coldness, as he spoke indifferently. Naturally, his arrogance was awe-inspiring. He actually just stood there, without any rising battle intent or flowing aura. He stood there calmly, as if he didn't place the upcoming battle in his eyes at all. Isn't he too arrogant? He doesn't care about Mingho at all. At this moment, countless people thought to themselves. Tantai furrowed her brows. She became nervous for no reason. She deeply understood how terrifying Mingho's spatial energy was. If she wasn't a 9th-stage emperor intent and had extraordinary senses, she probably wouldn't even know how she died. However, Chun Hao, no chance? This crown prince wants to see who doesn't have a chance. Ha! Hearing Chun Hao's words, Mingho actually said arrogantly. After saying that, he laughed disdainfully. Boom! At the same time, Mingho suddenly activated his dark blue body protective energy, the symbol of a peak rank 9 martial emperor. His aura began to frantically soar. His expression was filled with arrogance and despotism. He was looking down on all living things. The gaze with which he looked to Chun Hao was filled with contempt and ridicule. Seeing this scene, the referee frowned slightly. The reason for that was because he had yet to announce the start of the match. According to the rules, Mingho could not activate his body protective energy first. Just as the referee was about to say something, his eyes suddenly opened wide. Just when everyone thought that Mingho's aura had already soared to its peak, the air in the entire arena suddenly surged violently. The energy of heaven and earth actually converged towards Mingho at an astonishing speed, like 100 rivers flowing into the sea, a myriad of streams returning to their source. Hiss, hiss. After a short moment, Mingho's dark blue body protective energy actually entered his body. Bang! At the instant it entered his body, it once again blossomed with resplendent light. However, what caused the entire martial stage to go into an uproar and suck in a breath of cold air was that Mingho's body protective energy had actually turned light purple. The light purple color that symbolized martial ancestor realm. Martial ancestor realm. Mingho actually advanced to martial ancestor realm. Heavens, are you kidding? How could this be? How could he be this fast? Martial ancestor realm. That boy actually advanced to martial ancestor realm? Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, and Ni Giant Pain all opened their eyes wide in shock. Huang Qi, Yunfian, Dongfang Jun, and the others all sucked in a mouthful of cold air and stood up in shock. The barrier from rank 9 martial emperor to martial ancestor realm was extremely difficult. Even for super geniuses, it would take them at least a year to break through. Ni Giant Pain, Yang Fan, and Li Yifeng were all top-notch geniuses. However, they had been stuck at rank 9 martial emperor for half a year. It was only right before the new talent list ranking competition that they managed to barely advance to rank 9 martial emperor. However, Mingho, who had advanced to rank 9 martial emperor using the 9 revolution emperor pellet, had actually advanced to martial ancestor realm. Astonishment. No one was not astonished. Everyone knew that Mingho had deliberately broken through the barrier at this moment. Could it be that he had already comprehended the barrier when he was facing Tantai Lien? That was very unlikely. If he had comprehended the barrier at that time, how could he not have broken through and allowed himself to fight Tantai Lien to a draw? Evidently, Mingho had comprehended the barrier after his battle with Tantai Lien. As for what the truth was, it was no longer important. What was important was that Mingho had already advanced to martial ancestor realm. Ha ha! This crown prince is a heavenly genius. Even the heavens are looking after me. You are indeed very powerful. However, that was only yesterday. Of course, this crown prince must also thank you for completely infuriating this crown prince. If it wasn't for you, this crown prince would likely have needed some more time to break through to martial ancestor realm. Ha ha ha. Referee, are you still not going to start? I'm already unable to wait, Mingho said arrogantly. As he spoke, he removed his protective barrier. Hearing Mingho's words, the referee took a glance at Chun Hao. Seeing that Chun Hao did not have the slightest intention of admitting defeat, he straightforwardly announced the start of the match. Boom! Boom! Right after the referee finished speaking, the two of them both activated their protective barriers. This crown prince will let you know who the true genius is. Die thoroughly. Boom! Mingho did not use the apparition shifting phantom. Instead, he stomped his feet, and instantly, 2 deep pits appeared on the extremely hard ground. His entire body was like a cannonball as he charged towards Chun Hao in an extremely violent manner. Clang! Buzz! His body moved and his sword unsheathed. With Mingho as the center, the space within a radius of 100 feet was strangely distorted. After advancing to martial ancestor realm, his control over space energy had obviously increased by countless times. Streaks of devastating and terrifying sword chi that contained space energy enveloped Chun Hao with a brilliant heavenly aura. Yun Fian, Huang Qi, and the rest were all worried for Chun Hao. Just as Mingho was insufferably arrogant and wanted to rely on his absolute strength to slay Chun Hao in one fell swoop and charge towards Chun Hao. Chun Hao, who had a calm and cold expression, also moved. Chun Hao took a step forward. Suddenly, his body shook violently. In an instant, streaks of energy surged around him, causing a gust of wind to surge within a radius of several feet around him. It made people clearly feel that a vigorous power that was as strong as the mountains and the seas and as strong as Yang was condensing on his body. As his palms drew an arc in front of him, Chun Hao let out a violent roar. He struck out with his palm. Rumble. The sky changed color and the earth shook. The azure palm energy contained a trace of pure Yang energy, like a flash flood or a river bursting its banks. What shocked everyone was that it seemed to have condensed into a giant dragon, roaring as it surged out from Chun Hao's palm. Martial arts secret technique, dragon subduing palm. Chun Hao's palm was far from the 18 dragon subduing palms in wuxia novels. It also had 18 palms, and it was one of Chun Hao's ultimate martial arts, one of the fiercest, most violent, and most powerful ones. And now, the power displayed could not be compared to Earth, which was lacking in spiritual chi. Not only did he condense all the energy in his body, he also integrated a trace of pure Yang energy from the 9, revolving heavenly sun technique. Boom! Boom! The power of the palm actually blocked Mingho, who was in the martial arts grandmaster realm, and forced him to stop. Oof. You're indeed deliberately fighting to a draw with Tantile Yin. Very good. This kind of power is still like the light of a firefly to me. Break. Mingho's figure condensed. He did not waste the meaningless sword chi. With a buzz, his sword vibrated, and he became one with his sword, charging towards Chun Hao again. Hiss! Chun Hao's terrifying palm was actually pierced through by Yun Mingho in an instant. It was as if he had truly torn apart the void as he crossed a distance of over 30 meters in an instant. The sharp, condensed, and terrifying sword instantly locked onto Chun Hao's forehead. Fast! Really fast! Go to hell! Seeing that his sword was about to hit Chun Hao, Mingho, who was majestic like a god, exploded with a loud roar. P.S. Looking for monthly votes, recommendation votes, subscriptions. Dark Mountain will continue to write the second update. Thank you, everyone. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Epiphany. He became the air, the wind. He was the air that existed everywhere between heaven and earth, while Yun Mingho's berserk and terrifying energy surged forth at high speed, turning him into the wind. How fast Yun Mingho was, he would be as fast, invisible, and traceless. How is this possible? Yun Mingho's eyes widened as he crazily activated his energy and desperately increased his speed. However, no matter what, Chun Hao was still floating 3 meters away from him. After a moment, with a whoosh, he was swept to one side, like a stream of air. How could he, who was advancing at high speed, have the time to change his direction and give chase? Not to mention giving chase. In an instant, a terrifying energy suddenly enveloped him from the side like a mountain and an ocean. Die! These two short words were not loud, not wild, not arrogant. But Mingho did not even have the time to turn around before he felt a violent energy that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth and directly penetrate his protective aura. Bang, bang. 2 explosive sounds rang out. One was penetrating his protective aura, and the other was Chun Hao's palm, which was shining with a metallic luster, heavily smacked the back of Yun Mingho's head. Bang, bang, bang. Following which, countless dull sounds of explosions rang out. Chun Hao's figure circled around Yun Mingho and quickly struck out 18 palms. following which, with a sway of his body, he floated hundreds of meters away. The martial arts arena was completely silent. Everyone's eyes were filled with curiosity. They quickly glanced at Yin Mingho, who seemed to be unharmed, and then looked at Chun Hao, who was standing valiantly with a cold and calm expression. Not knowing what was going on, they looked at Yin Mingho again. Boom, boom, boom. After a few seconds, Yin Mingho's seemingly unharmed body actually exploded. Bang, 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 bang. His 2 arms and 2 legs turned into meat paste. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, following which continuous explosions rang out. Yin Mingho's chest and stomach all burst open. His head was like a watermelon, exploding into pieces. Red blood and white brain matter splattered everywhere. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a bloody mist. Ah! Terrified screams rang out from the martial arts arena. On the rostrum, the beautiful little girl, Xianing, was so scared that her little face turned pale. She directly covered her eyes, but even so, the scene of Yin Mingho's body exploding still appeared before her eyes. Especially the scene of his head exploding, it was even more tragic. Such terrifying control of origin energy. Yes, only when one's control of origin energy had reached the peak of the microscopic realm could one enter the opponent's body and detonate it at will. Comprehending the operation of the 5 elements, the mystery of yin and yang in heaven and earth, comprehending the power of the laws of heaven and earth, comprehending the true essence of the wind on the rostrum. The eyes of the numerous figures flickered with a bright light as they stared at the extraordinarily handsome Chun Hao. His calm expression, cold gaze, and straight figure brought an enormous shock to everyone's hearts. Every day, every battle, caused everyone to have a deeper understanding of the youth before them. Chun Hao victory! The loud and clear voice of the referee interrupted everyone's shock. Chun Hao's figure flashed and floated back to his seat. Huang Qi's old face carried a wisp of extreme shock and envy. He trembled slightly as he stared at Chun Hao, who floated back. It was simply impossible to describe his feelings at this moment. Obtaining the 5 elemental spirit root, comprehending the profundity of the 5 elemental energy, and possessing a trace of the yin and yang aura of heaven and earth. Although Chun Hao didn't say these, Huang Qi could guess that Chun Hao had obtained great opportunities in the 2 ruins. But what about the true essence of the wind? Mother Vaster's Kerr, it was only yesterday that this fellow knew what the true essence was, and asked him what he should do if he wanted to comprehend the true essence of elemental energy. But now, monster, kid, Huang Qi's voice carried extreme envy and jealousy as he spoke. Good kill, huh? Chun Hao, brother Chun, boss Chun. I love you to death. Ha ha ha. F***CK off. At the moment when Dongfang Jun pounced over to hug Chun Hao kicked Dongfang Jun's butt and scolded him with a glare. Excited, that's all. If I really hugged him, I would feel disgusted instead. Senior Sister Yin, hug him for me. Dongfang Jun said indifferently. He actually dragged Yunfian into it. Yunfian originally wanted to hug Chun Hao. The reason for that was because it was truly pleasurable. Not only was Chun Hao's strength and talent pleasurable, even more pleasurable was the fact that Chun Hao had killed that loathsome Yin Mingho. Furthermore, the method he used to kill him was simply too pleasurable. As for bloodiness and all that, to hell with it. Yunfian didn't care about it all. She only felt pleasurable. However, after hearing what Dongfang Jun said, she glared fiercely at him and no longer had the courage to hug him. Amazing. This Chun Hao is only a rank 8 martial emperor. Yet, he was able to easily kill a martial ancestor realm expert. This strength, say, if he were to fight against Li Yifeng, who would win? Of course it would be Chun Hao. What about an eye giant pain? Is there even a need to ask? What about Yang Fan? Chun Hao. Needless to say, this Chun Hao is a combat genius. Motherfucker, every single time, we would think that he would have no hope at all. Every single time, he would be able to easily win. Did you not see the astonished gazes of those experts on the viewing platform? I'm afraid that it is not only us. They're the same. People like him are super existences that become stronger the more they fight. That's true. Although I still feel that Yang Fan and Ni Giant Pain are more powerful. That's right. It's a pity for that Mingho. He had already become a martial ancestor realm expert. He was stronger than Tantai Lien. Yet he died. I truly don't understand why the experts on the viewing platform didn't join the battle. The 100 Empire ranking is the symbol of an empire's honor. It would be even better if true experts would join it. Indeed, although Mingho was too arrogant and I wanted him to die, for the sake of the empire's honor, it would be better for him not to die. There was a lot of discussion in the martial arts practice field. They were shocked by Chun Hao's valiance to Mingho, who had been killed by Chun Hao. Many people clearly did not understand why there were no rules in the new talent ranking competition, especially when it was time to decide the disciples who would be qualified for the 100 Empire ranking. What if Li Yifeng and the others were also killed by Chun Hao? Wouldn't they have to let the clowns behind them fill in the gaps? Very good, very good. At that moment, Mu Qing suddenly floated up from the viewing platform. When he was in midair, his face was glowing with excitement. His eyes were fixed on Chun Hao as he spoke. After he slowly landed on the arena, his gaze swept across the martial arts practice field. The crowd that was in a heated discussion immediately quietened down. The disciples who will be qualified for the 100 Empire ranking have been decided. Chun Hao, Yang Fan, Ni Giant Pain, Li Yifeng, Tantai Lien, the white-haired but youthful Mu Qing said slowly with a smile. Whether it was intentional or not, Chun Hao's name was actually mentioned first by Mu Qing. Could it be that in Mu Qing's heart, Chun Hao was already stronger than Yang Fan and the other two? Originally, Mingho's strength was already above Tantai Lien's, but he was killed by Chun Hao. Our new talent ranking competition has never had any rules. However, the old man still hopes that there will be a good outcome. According to the decision of our arbitration group, we've temporarily evaluated the top 5. In fact, we've only evaluated the combat strength of Chun Hao, Yang Fan, Ni Giant Pain, and Li Yifeng. The evaluation results are out. Chun Hao is first. Crash. When Mu Qing said that Chun Hao was first, the entire martial arts practice field was in an uproar. They had seen Chun Hao's strength. However, they were not sure if he could defeat Yang Fan and the other two. After all, Yang Fan and the other two were not people that Mingho, who had just become a martial ancestor, could compare to. The reason is very simple. Chun Hao's strength level might not be on par with the three of you, especially Ni Giant Pain. However, he has comprehended the true essence of wind and is stronger than Yang Fan. Not only that, he has also comprehended the profundity of using strength. With these two types of laws of heaven and earth, the three of you have a 70% chance of losing. Of course, if you still have hidden strength that you haven't exposed, or if you don't agree with our evaluation, you can issue a challenge. Second update. Seeking monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 154. First update. Very, very depressing. Yesterday, I wrote a wrong word in the single chapter. Many brothers and sisters might have misunderstood. Dark Mountain said rookie rankings end, not new book rankings. It was a plot problem that needed to be conceived. Dark Mountain did not start 2 updates after the new book was over. Was Dark Mountain's character that bad? Dark Mountain said that he would fight continuously, not just during the new book period. He wrote a wrong word, and there was only 1 monthly ticket for today. Was Dark Mountain so untrustworthy? In fact, Yang Fan and the other two had seen Chun Hao's ability today. They did not have much chance of winning, but they still wanted to spar. But since Mu Qing had said so, Yang Fan and the other two naturally understood what she meant. They could only suppress their desire to fight and recognize second, third, and fourth respectively. Tantai Lien was lucky enough to be 5th. The top 5 rankings were out. The rankings of the bottom 4 did not have much meaning. Mu Qing also determined their rankings based on their current battle results and performance. Similarly, anyone who disagreed could challenge them. But at this point, who still had hidden their strength? Similarly, no one challenged them. The rookie rankings that had lasted for several days finally ended. Mu Qing presided over the award ceremony. Chen Hao, Yang Fan, and I, Jian Payne, Li Yifeng, and Tantai Lian followed the Empire's Emperor Xian Songfeng and the expert from the sects on the rostrum towards the depths of the palace. Little Hao, later, no matter who invites you to accept, don't accept the sect chosen by the 100 Empire rankings for the time being. Your strength should be at the second level among all the disciples on the 100 Empire rankings, but your talent is at the first level. Even if you can't get a good ranking, you will still have a lot of choices. It won't be too late to decide then. Do you understand? Just as Chun Hao and the other four followed the experts into the depths of the palace, Dongfang Ting's voice rang out in Chun Hao's mind. Thank you for your reminder, Senior. If you don't want to call me Aunt, then don't call me Senior. A year later, if nothing goes wrong, you should be a disciple of the sect. You can call me Senior Sister. Yes, Senior Sister. Chun Hao hesitated for a moment before replying via voice transmission. Chun Hao felt that Dongfang Ting was not bad, at least much better than that idiot Dongfang Jun, although Dongfang Jun did not hate him now. However, Chun Hao never liked his arrogant and domineering personality. On the other hand, Dongfang Ting, the pride of the Jinyuan kingdom, was not arrogant in front of him. Furthermore, his training in the Cloud Mountain range had been of great help to him. However, Chun Hao couldn't call a woman who looked to be in her 20s his aunt. No matter what, he wasn't just 15 years old. Adding up the age of his 2 lifetimes, he was definitely much older than Dongfang Ting. Senior Sister, are you going to participate in the 100 Empire rankings now? Chun Hao asked. Even now, Chun Hao knew nothing about the 100 Empire ranking apart from its name. Huang Qi and the others had never mentioned it, and he had never asked. But thinking about it, it should be similar to the rookie list. Yes, but also no. The 100 Empire ranking is very different from the rookie list. It is the only way for the cultivation world of the Eastern continent to select talented disciples from the secular imperial court. Any disciple who enters the 100 Empire ranking will temporarily have the qualifications to enter another level, which is the real cultivation world. Being able to display talent and strength and being chosen by a powerful sect is naturally the best. However, even if you're not chosen, you can still become a member of the real cultivation world. You will know this later. After 10 minutes, Chun Hao, Yang Fan, and the other 4 followed the crowd to a vast and magnificent palace in the deepest part of the palace. First of all, congratulations to the 5 of you for obtaining the qualifications to enter the 100 Empire ranking and becoming the pride of the Xuanwu Kingdom. After everyone sat down and Chun Hao and the other 4 were arranged to sit in the middle of the 5 seats, the Emperor of the Empire, Xian Songfeng, looked at the 5 of them with a gentle and kind gaze. Entering the 100 Empire ranking means that you can obtain the qualifications to enter another level. And you will be like the other perfected persons present and become the backing of the Xuanwu Kingdom. Your family and loved ones will be protected by the Empire. All right, here are 5 sets of information. The 5 of you could take a look first. After Xian Songfeng finished speaking, 5 brown scrolls floated in front of Chun Hao and the other 4. From the eyes of Yang Fan and the rest, it could be seen that they were the same as Chun Hao. They did not know more about the 100 Empire ranking than Chun Hao. Quickly flipping through the scrolls, the 5 of them revealed shocked expressions as they read the contents of the scrolls. Fate, opportunities, heaven and earth spiritual chi, historical remains. It is actually produced like this. Chun Hao and the other 4 were extremely shocked. There was not much information, and the 5 of them finished reading very quickly. However, the shock in their hearts was indescribable. That was especially true of Chun Hao, who had always had doubts about the other level. Did it exist in another world or in a mysterious area in the boundless world? However, this information gave him a clear explanation. It existed in the boundless world. However, it was an independent space. The boundless world was only a general concept. The word boundless contained the meaning of having no limits. The true cultivation world had a close relationship with the secular dynasties. The secular dynasties were the foundation, origin, and most primordial existence of the true cultivation world. What restricted the two levels were the mysterious and irresistible laws of the heavenly Tao. The 100 Empire ranking was not the only way for martial artists and intent practitioners to enter the true cultivation world. There was another way, and that was to break through the cultivation realm. When one could break through the limits of martial artists and intent practitioners and enter the golden core realm, they would be restricted by the laws of the heavenly Tao and enter the true cultivation world. However, this method was undoubtedly difficult and long. After obtaining the qualifications to enter the 100 Empire ranking, one would obtain the qualifications to enter the true cultivation world in advance and enter with the cultivation of a lower martial realm. Their cultivation speed would increase by 10 times or even 100 times. Before entering, the cultivator would leave behind a strand of their blood essence, mind, and life aura to merge with the royal bloodline of the empire. This would allow the cultivator to form a mysterious connection with the dynasty. After that, the higher the cultivation of the cultivator and the greater the achievements, the stronger the royal bloodline they left behind would be. The stronger the royal bloodline, the thicker the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the empire, the more luck and opportunities there would be, and the more ancient relics and inheritances there would be. Do you all understand? Seeing that Chun Hao and the other four had finished reading the information and were deep in thought, Xian Songfeng smiled and said, "In the future, our empire will have the 5 of you to rely on. This 5-sided token is a spirit treasure refined by the true cultivation world. It only has one function, and that is to bring you into the cultivation world. After you refine it, it will open in about 3 months. As for the 100 Empire ranking competition, it will be a year later." Xian Songfeng paused for a moment before continuing. In other words, after entering the true cultivation world, you will have 9 months to cultivate by yourself. The cultivation environment there is 10 times, no, 100 times better than our secular world. I only hope that after you enter, you will work hard to cultivate and try your best to raise your ranking on the 100 Empire ranking. Only then will you be able to enter a powerful sect. Of course, the prerequisite is that it must be built on the foundation of preserving your life. There is something that Mu Qing did not say earlier, but there is no harm in telling you now. That Yimingho was indeed a rare genius of our Xuanwu Empire. He should not have been killed by Chun Hao. However, do you know why we did not stop him? Character. Arrogant and conceited, he did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Such a person would basically be killed if he entered the cultivation world, where geniuses and experts gathered. Once he died, everything would be gone. What was the use of being a genius? Moreover, he was only a genius of our Xuanwu Empire. All right, this is your token. After you return, refine it with your blood essence. Now, force out your blood essence and inject it into the royal bloodline of our Xuanwu Empire. After Xian Songfeng handed the 5 tokens to the 5 of them, he glanced at the woman beside him, Xian, and said, Xian, enlightened masters, let's have you work together. The effect will be better. Xian nodded slightly. Dongfang Ting and the other experts also responded. Rumble, following Xian Songfeng's continuous release of majestic and pure energy, the ground in front of Chun Hao's group of 5 actually slowly split apart. A resplendent golden light rose up, emitting a mysterious and profound aura. Blood essence. Xian shouted at Chun Hao's group of 5. At the same time, the experts present suddenly soared into the air. Everyone's body began to emit a pressure that made Chun Hao's group feel terrified. Puff, puff, puff. Chun Hao's group of 5 immediately spat out a mouthful of blood arrows toward the golden light. Sacrifice. Following everyone's shout, the 5 blood arrows were instantly enveloped by majestic energy and merged into the golden light. At the same time, Chun Hao's group of 5 felt their minds rumble. Their energy energy, and spirit actually withered a lot in an instant. However, what shocked Chun Hao's group of five was that at this moment, their perception actually spread out at a terrifying speed. 100 miles, 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 100,000 miles. It was as if they were following a huge dragon entrenched underground that ran through the entire Xuanwu Empire, advancing without any obstruction. When the five people's energy, and spirit were almost completely drained, the resplendent golden light slowly dissipated. Finally, the fusion of Chun Hao's group of five with the royal bloodline aura was completed. Dongfang Ting immediately walked toward Chun Hao, but Xian Xian was even faster. She domineeringly blocked Dongfang Ting behind her and arrived in front of Chun Hao. With a wave of her jade-like hand, a stream of pure energy began to pour into Chun Hao's body. With a trace of smile on her face, she said, "Chun Hao, in 3 months, you'll enter the cultivation world. I have high hopes for you. You don't need to care too much about your ranking on the rookie list. You just need to complete the training under the premise of preserving your life. When the time comes, our sword faction will choose you. My name is Xian Xian, and I will be your senior sister from now on. Thank you, Spiritual Master Xian. The 100 Empire ranking is also a kind of training. Since I'm participating, I will do my best." Chun Hao smiled faintly as he spoke with a calm expression. His tone was ambiguous, and he neither refused nor agreed. "You probably don't understand the situation of the cultivation world. Our sword faction is a 6th rank faction. It is an extremely powerful existence. Being able to enter is undoubtedly the best choice. Furthermore, with senior sister's care, your future will naturally be better. All right, you just need to remember what I said." Xian Xian smiled slightly and did not force him. Her expression was extremely confident. With Chun Hao's talent, he could be considered top tier among all the disciples on the 100 Empire ranking. However, his cultivation level and battle strength could only be ranked in the middle. When the time came, the factions that would choose him would at most be 6th rank sections. With her words now, she believed that Chun Hao would choose the sword faction. This is the first update, requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Wu Shan continues to write with all his might. The climax is over and the plot is over. I hope that my friends can also give their monthly votes and recommendation votes to Wu Shan. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to give your recommendation votes and monthly votes. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 155. Second update. Begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Wu Shan will continue to work hard. Third update. Please everyone. The pursuers are ferocious. I urgently need the support of my brothers and sisters. When he returned to the martial arts practice field, the award ceremony was just about to end. Chun Hao was the last to enter the arena and receive the huge reward of being first on the rookie list. Shuya took the little girl, Xian Ying, and directly followed Chun Hao and the others out of the Imperial Palace. Chun Hao already knew the little girl, Xian Ying's identity. After learning of her purpose, he readily agreed and carved the little girl's high-quality purple crystal jade into a statue of the Empire's emperor, Xian Songfeng. There were still a few small pieces left. He very kindly carved one of them into a jade pendant similar to his sister Chun Yan's. As for the rest, he kept them as part of his reward. Whoosh! 5 days later, a young man's figure flew through the void as fast as lightning and appeared above a huge city at the border of the Jinyuan kingdom. Gazing at the city that had undergone earth-shattering changes, the young man revealed a trace of surprise, even though he already knew the news. The young man's clothes were as white as snow, and his long hair fluttered in the wind. He was extraordinarily handsome. His slightly gentle but angular face naturally exuded a cold aura. His black and deep eyes were like the stars in the night sky, shining brightly. This young man was not just anyone. It was Chun Hao, who had returned from the Xuanwu Empire. There were only about 3 months left before the token would be activated. At that time, he would enter another level of time. It was unknown when he would be able to return again. Chun Hao, who had not returned for 3 years, returned to the royal new show hall. When he learned that Helian Wuzi, Mo Yui, Xiao Ling, Xiao Jian, Xiao Jishan, Xiao Jifei, and the others who had just joined the royal new show hall, Chun Hao directly returned to Yinzhou County. Gazing at the huge city below him, familiar figures appeared in his mind one after another, causing ripples of excitement to appear in Chun Hao's usually calm mind. The headquarters had already been moved to the core of the Cloud State County, deep in the inner courtyard of the Xiao family. In an exquisite and elegant courtyard, a middle-aged man dressed in ordinary clothes was watering the flowers. Suddenly, he frowned slightly and looked up into the sky. A faint smile appeared in the middle-aged man's ordinary face. Then, as if he did not see anything, he continued to water the flowers. However, his slightly trembling hand revealed the excitement in his heart. Chun Hao's divine sense slowly swept across the Xiao clan. What made Chun Hao feel gratified was that the entire Xiao clan actually contained an extremely powerful array formation, causing the heaven and earth spirit qi within the Xiao clan to be several times denser than the outside world. Hi. In the Xiao clan's martial arts practice field, thousands of young men and women were in high spirits. Under the leadership of a stalwart middle-aged man and several instructors, they were performing uniform movements. It was obvious that these disciples had only joined the sect for half a year. However, their auras were much stronger than the Xiang generation disciples from 3 years ago. Among them, the auras of the youngest boy and girl were clearly stronger than all the new disciples. They were already on the verge of breaking through to martial warrior. Looking at the familiar scene, Chun Hao withdrew his aura and silently appeared at the edge of the martial arts practice field. The middle-aged man, standing on the high platform, was the head instructor, Xiao Guan. When Xiao Guan saw the young men and women beside Chun Hao, his pupils shrank and his eyes widened in shock. At this moment, he was already a 9th grade martial emperor and had already been promoted to an inner court elder. However, he was still the head instructor of the outer court disciples of the Xiao clan. What surprised him was that there was actually someone who could silently approach the martial arts practice field. How could he not be shocked? However, when he saw the young man who did not emit any aura, Xiao Guan's shock and slight nervousness immediately turned into a frown and then an intense joy. Chun Hao, you're Chun Hao. Disciple Chun Hao greets head instructor Xiao. Chun Hao smiled and clasped his fist at the shocked Xiao Guan. Ha. Good. Xiao Guan hurriedly bowed to Chun Hao and then gathered the energy in his dantian and shouted, Old Xiao, Patriarch, the chief guest elder, Chun Hao is back. Chun Hao is back. Boom, boom. Xiao Guan's excited voice sounded like thunder in the Xiao clan. After shouting several times, he finally stopped. Immediately, he excitedly went to Chun Hao's side. Brother. In the martial arts practice field, Xiao Nan and Xiao Yin immediately screamed and rushed to Chun Hao, whom they had not seen for 3 years. When they got close to Chun Hao, Xiao Yan's figure flickered and actually jumped high in the air, directly flying towards Chun Hao. Chun Hao opened his arms and looked at his cute and beautiful sister with a gratified and excited expression. The excited Xiao Nan glared at Xiao Yin, who had jumped into Chun Hao's arms and stopped. Her eyes were burning as she tightly grabbed Chun Hao's hand. Brother, Xiao Nan said in a trembling voice. Big brother. Little Yin, who had burrowed into Chun Hao's arms and hugged him tightly, cried out with a sobbing tone. Boom, boom, boom. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After Xiao Guan's thunderous voice sounded, countless figures in the entire Xiao clan immediately rushed out from every room in the inner academy. One of them flew through the air at an astonishing speed and soon appeared in front of Chun Hao. It was Old Xiao. Disciple Chun Hao greets Old Xiao. Chun Hao hastily put Xiao Yin down and bowed. This was the greeting of a junior to an elder. Good. Old Xiao, whose appearance had not changed at all, stared at Chun Hao in a daze. He excitedly helped Chun Hao up and said, Superior grade, Martial Emperor. Good. Soon after, the Xiao clan's family head, Xiao Ding, and the Shao clan's elders all rushed over. When Chun Hao saw the familiar figures appear one after another, his emotions surged. This was especially so when he saw that everyone's cultivation had increased at an astonishing speed. Old Zhao's aura was clearly that of a martial ancestor realm cultivator. Xiao Ding had also become a superior grade martial emperor. Chun Hao knew that all these changes were due to the sufficient supply of medicinal pills. Of course, Old Zhao's improvement was mostly due to the complete longevity art. When everyone greeted and bowed to Chun Hao felt his status in everyone's eyes. Aside from Old Xiao, even Xiao Ding looked at him with reverence. Just at this moment, a graceful figure that Chun Hao was familiar with flew over at lightning speed. When her gaze locked onto Chun Hao, her figure immediately froze. She stared blankly at the youth who was smiling at her. She was not stunningly beautiful. However, there was a faint blush on her charming and gentle face, as well as an unconcealable excitement. Junior. Xiao Mei wanted to call him junior brother. However, she could not bring herself to do so. Her former junior brother, was already the Shao clan's true backer. He had an extremely high status in the entire Jinyuan kingdom. Was junior brother still something that she could call him? Sister Mei. Chun Hao called out with a faint smile. Chun Hao's return was bound to cause a commotion. After exchanging greetings with everyone, Chun Hao carried Xiao Yan, who was wrapped around Chun Hao like an octopus. Then, he pulled his little brother and headed to the small courtyard where his parents lived. When he thought of his mother, who used to be emaciated and worked hard for the family, Chun Hao felt a stab of pain in his heart. And now, he had finally, with his own strength, freed his mother from that unbearable life. When he thought of his mysterious father, Chun Hao felt even more puzzled and curious. Brother, what's your current cultivation? Xiao Anan was high-spirited. She raised her head with a fiery gaze as she looked at her idol and asked. Rank 8 Martial Emperor. In the future, you will catch up to your big brother. Work hard. Chun Hao patted Xiao Nan's head and said with a trace of pampering. That's not important. As long as I can catch up to big brother, it's fine. Big brother, Sister Mei often tells little sister and me that if we want to see you, we must work hard to cultivate. Otherwise, we will become people from 2 different worlds. Big brother, is that true? Of course not. Big brother will often come back. Chun Hao was slightly startled. Then he said, you only come back once every 3 years. Big brother, Xiao Yan hates you. Xiao Yan, who was in Chun Hao's embrace, pouted and said, don't speak nonsense. Big brother is doing this for cultivation. A real man should aspire to travel far. How can I come back to see you every day? However, big brother, if you're free, you should come back more often. Mother talks about you every day, and little sister too. What surprised Chun Hao was that Xiao Nan, who was only 10 years old, actually spoke in a manly manner. That tone, that expression, it was extremely similar to his father's when he participated in the Cloud Province's martial gathering. Aren't you still? Xiao Yan said to Xiao Nan in dissatisfaction. Big brother, amen? Right at this moment, Xiao Nan suddenly frowned. She seemed to want to say something, but hesitated. This caused Chun Hao to be slightly startled. Father, he is not an ordinary person. Xiao Nan finally said in a low voice. How do you know? Chun Hao asked in astonishment. Father did not allow Xiao Yan and I to cultivate the Xiao family's internal techniques. He taught us a set of techniques. Father told us to cultivate diligently and come to your side. Big brother, tell me, Father is clearly an ordinary person. How could he have a cultivation technique? Moreover, when you left Cloud Province, he told us to start cultivating. Otherwise, with our current cultivation, we would not have been able to become martial warriors so quickly. Have you asked Father? Chun Hao said with a serious expression. He knew that his younger brother could no longer be looked at as a child. Compared to him who had not fused with his soul back then, his mind was much more mature. I did ask, but Father did not say anything. He only said that one day we would know. Big brother, did you also realize it? Amen. Don't ask in the future. Father must have his difficulties. Chun Hao said, Amen. As they spoke, Chunhao saw a small, independent courtyard from afar. At the entrance of the courtyard, his mother was looking around. His mother's appearance had changed greatly. Her complexion was rosy, and she was obviously 10 years younger than before. Tianci, the familiar voice trembled with excitement as Chunhao's mother jogged over to Chunhao. Chunhao hurriedly put Xiao Yin down. With a flash of his body, he mysteriously appeared in front of his mother. He bowed and knelt on the ground. Mother! P.S. Second update. Are there any more monthly votes? Please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. Xiao Jifei's name was written wrongly as Xiao Jihan. Sorry, it has been changed. Begging for monthly votes, recommendation votes, subscription votes. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Your support is my greatest motivation. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.